Chapter 7207. There's no other way now. Just think of it as losing weight, Baichan said. Gong Jun had a bitter look on his face. Boss, don't be like this. I think my current body shape is quite perfect. Exercising is good for you. Gong Jun swore in his heart that Boss was definitely using his position to avenge a personal grudge. Just because of his big mouth just now. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, We have a lot of devouring spirit stones here. You can find a remote place in the mine and don't be noticed by others. When we find the right opportunity, we will rescue you from the mine. Gong Jun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang touched. Sister-in-law, I know you're the kindest. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. But what we need to figure out now is where the mine we manage is located. Baichan took out a token in his hand and said, If I'm not wrong, the 13th mine should be the place we want to go. It's much easier now that you know where it is. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up. She had noticed that there were corresponding labels on these mines. Currently, they were in Mine 7. Presumably, they would be able to find Mine 13 if they walked a little further. When we get close to mine number 13, I'm sure we'll run into other acquaintances. We'll try to get information from them. Just be careful not to expose ourselves at night. Bailey Hongzhuang kept thinking in her mind. Granny Hua had taught her a lot of ways to make pills and potions. She didn't know if there was a way to make people answer questions unconsciously. She vaguely remembered hearing about it before, but she usually didn't pay much attention to it, so she couldn't remember it at the moment. Don't worry, I won't be seen through so easily. Baichan had a confident look on his face. Jichuan doesn't talk much to begin with. You just need to stay calm. But you have to act like Gu Jian, who is cunning. Thinking of this, Baichan looked at Gong Jun and said, You should teach Hongzhuang this. Hearing this, Gong Jun nodded repeatedly. You should ask me about this kind of thing. I'm the best at it. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you really think I'm praising you? In my opinion, with Gu Jian's character of taking advantage of others, when that person comes to look for you at night, you have to deliberately pretend that you want to take an extra share. This way, you won't be easily seen through. Gong Jun explained a lot to Bailey Hongzhuang based on the situation, showing the essence of a profiteer vividly. Anyway, that Gu Jian doesn't look likable. You just have to act like this, Gong Jun said. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. I think after we find a way to get you out of the mine, you could just pretend to be Gu Jian. His character is really suitable for you to pretend to be him. Gong Jun smiled. Of course. As the three of them got closer and closer to the know. 13 mine, several people on the way nodded at them when they saw them. The two of them nodded and walked slowly. When they arrived at the number 13 mine, a cultivator holding a whip came over. Manager Ji, you're back. Baichan glanced at the man and said, Let this boy enter the mine. Okay. The man's face was full of smiles. I'll do it right away. Then, he turned to look at Gong Jun. Kid, come with me. Chapter 7208. Gong Jun looked at the two with tears in his eyes. He was about to start his mining career. Wait. Baichan's voice rang out. The man and Gong Jun both turned their heads. The latter looked at Baichan expectantly, hoping to find a reason to keep him. Go to my tent and pour me a cup of tea. Baichan looked at the man beside him. Hearing this, the man could not help but look at Baichan in surprise. He did not expect such an order. Is there a problem? Baichan raised his eyebrows. No. The man quickly waved his hand. I'll go now. Baichan nodded slightly. Do a good job. The man's eyes lit up. When he heard this, it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He looked unusually excited and walked toward the tent not far away. Bailey Hongzhuang looked in the direction the man left and quietly gave Baichan a thumbs up. If it were not for this guy leading the way, they would not have even found the tent. It would have been troublesome then. Gong Jun restrained his feelings of gratitude. As expected, he was still too naive. Although the people in the mine don't know much, you can try to find out more. If you gather any useful information, remember to tell us. Gong Jun sighed. Okay, don't pretend to be wronged. This environment is not a problem for you at all. Baichan glanced at Gong Hun indifferently and said, This guy was best at mixing in the crowd to gather information. Without the daily task, he would not be able to hold his tongue even if he wanted to talk to someone. Gong Jun scratched his head. That's true. This portrait is for you. We are looking for this woman. Di Beichun took out the portraits and handed them to Gong Jun previously. The Di family had collected a lot of these portraits when they were searching for Xiao Sou. He didn't expect that they would come in handy here. Boss, don't worry. I'll do my best to gather information. Soon, the man rushed out of the tent and handed 2 cups of tea to Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang. Steward Ji, Steward Gu, the tea is here. Di Beichun took the tea and nodded with satisfaction. Okay, you can go back to work. Yes. The man's face was full of smiles. He called for Gong Jun and went near the mine. Come, let's enter the tent first. Di Beichun looked around. After making sure that no one was paying attention to them, he entered the tent with Bailey Hongzhuang. Most of the cultivators here are below the elementary celestial stage. However, the steward we met today is also at the elementary celestial stage. I think that the stewards here are not weak, so we have to get into character as soon as possible. We can't let others find out that something is amiss. Di Beichun nodded. Let's see if there are any relevant records here. Gong Jun should be able to understand things like the amount of the mission very soon. What we have to think about now is how to deal with that guy tonight. I wonder if there are other people besides that guy. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. They really couldn't be sure about this at the moment. They could only wait and see at night. The 2 of them looked around the tent and found that there was nothing useful here. Most of them were their clothes and some unimportant things. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang focused all her attention on Gu Jian's storage ring. As long as it was something important, the 2 of them would definitely carry it with them. It was just that there were a lot of things inside, so she needed to spend some time looking through them carefully. Chapter 72:10. Hearing the 10% commission, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. This was really in line with Gu Jian's style. He was really ruthless. According to the situation in the account book, even if it was the steward, the number of spirit-devouring stones that could be deducted each time was not much. He also took 10% of it. It could be seen that Lei Jun and the other man really had no choice but to agree. Usually, whenever you have a need, we have never refused. If you're still like this, then we have no choice. The man's face was also a little ugly. If it were not for the cultivation resources, they would not talk nonsense with Gu Jian at all. This guy was really insatiable. The atmosphere became tense in an instant. A moment later, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled and said, I just casually mentioned it. Why are you so nervous? Sit down first. Seeing this, Lei Jun and Lei Jun slowly sat down, but the seriousness on their faces still did not dissipate. We have already taken all the cultivation resources. This is yours. Di Beichun put 2 Qingquan bags on the table. These were the cultivation resources they finally took out according to Gu Jian's temperament. If there was no deviation, the things inside should be about the same. Lei Jun and Lei Jun did not speak. They took the bag and looked at it. Their faces looked better. How is it? I didn't lie to you, did I? Bailey Hongzhuang said. The man nodded slightly. You also know that it is not easy for us to save these. Of course I know. Aren't we all the same? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, Don't worry. We are all grasshoppers on the same rope. How can I be so excessive? Lei Jun and Lei Jun were also immersed in the joy of getting the cultivation resources. Their faces were full of smiles. By the way, I want to ask if you have seen this woman? Bailey Hongzhuang took out a portrait. It was Xiao Sou's appearance. Lei Jun and Lei Jun looked at the portrait. They looked at it and then shook their heads. I haven't seen her. Why are you looking for this woman? Someone asked me, and I saw that she was pretty, so I was a little interested, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. The 2 of them also understood that not only was Gu Jian greedy for money, he was also lustful. However, the woman in the painting was indeed not bad. No wonder he was interested. Indeed, we have never seen this woman before. However, if you're sure that she is in our crossing immortal domain, you'll be able to find her after spending some time. However, I'm not sure if she is in the mine. If you see this woman, remember to tell me. Bailey Hongzhuang put away the painting. Don't let others get ahead of you. The man laughed. Well, it's hard to say who's good looking. But don't worry, I'll keep an eye out for you. All right. By the way, I've already found the beautiful lady you took a fancy to a few days ago. I'll send her to you tomorrow. The man winked. It's getting late, so we'll be leaving first. After hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be dumbfounded. Gu Jian was already dead. How could he leave such a mess for her? After seeing the two of them leave, Xiao He and Xiao Bai quickly followed them. They still did not know the name of the other person. If they followed them, they should be able to get a lot of information. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beiqian were staring at each other. End of chapter. Chapter 72:11. What should we do tomorrow? Bailey Hongzhuang was a little worried. Dealing with women, she was not good at it. From the man's smirk, it was obvious that Gu Jian had been eyeing this woman for some time. It was not easy to find her. If she said no, she was afraid that it would not make sense. If the woman stayed, it would be even more troublesome. They had a lot of things to deal with now, and they also had to guard against that woman. It was really troublesome. Or should I say that I like Xiao Sou and have no interest in other women? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Di Beiqian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, thought for a moment, and said, with Gu Jian's character, he will definitely not refuse. It may be strange to refuse rashly. Then what should I do? She was not interested in women at all. Let Gong Jun pretend to be Gu Jian tomorrow. Di Beiqian said. As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a strange look. It seems that Gong Jun is still useful to us here. If there was no Gong Jun, this woman would be a big problem for them. But presumably, this big problem was not a problem for Gong Jun. Gu Jian's ID is really strange today. Usually, if there is such an opportunity, he will definitely try to extort us. Today, he didn't take the opportunity to embezzle. It surprised me a little. Lei Jun was puzzled. Maybe he also knows that what he did was a little too much. Lei Jun shook his head. I don't believe it. But fortunately, Ji Chuan is more reliable. It should be Ji Chuan who distributed it. That's true. I really don't understand why Ji Chuan cooperated with Gu Jian. This guy is really troublesome. In the future, try to have a good relationship with Ji Chuan. We have only cooperated for 2 years. We don't trust each other enough. After a long time, we may be able to replace Gu Jian and understand the whole channel. Do you think Ji Chuan's trouble has been solved? A few days ago, I saw him with a worried look on his face, but when I saw him today, he didn't seem to care anymore. Could it be that he has thought of a solution? I don't think so. There's no way they can come up with a solution in such a short time. The other party must have taken a fancy to Ji Chuan's Mine 13 because of its high production rate. If Ji Chuan isn't strong enough, there's nothing he can do about it. Let's do our best to help him. If Ji Chuan gets messed with, it won't do us any good. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early in the morning to observe the situation around the mine. The cultivators who were mining were also called out early in the morning to mine. The daily requirements were similar to the requirements they had when they were mining. After Gong Jun nodded to Bailey Hongzhuang, he also entered the mine. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around, thinking about how to get close to Gong Jun and exchange their identities. Lei Jun and the others shouldn't have sent him here so soon. Di Beiqian noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's slightly complicated look and said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In a while, I'll say that I'm going to the mine to check the situation and then take the opportunity to exchange our identities. However, just as the two of them finished breakfast and Bailey Hongzhuang was about to enter the mine, a group of people came over. Ji Chuan, have you thought about it? The man in the lead was tall and looked extremely sturdy. At this moment, he was condescendingly looking at Di Beiqian. His words were full of threats. Chapter 72:12. What do you think? Di Beiqian looked at the menacing guy in front of him. He didn't need to think about it to know that Ji Chuan had a grudge against him. After hearing this, the man couldn't help but sneer. You're still pretending in front of me. Is it interesting? The appearance of this group of people immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding practitioners, who all looked at them curiously. It seems that this should be the trouble you heard yesterday. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Trouble really came fast. It was only the second day, and the other party had already come to find them. If you don't exchange my number 13 with me, you should be very clear about what will happen. The man put his hands on his hips and looked at Di Beiqian playfully. His eyes were full of arrogance. I'm in a good mood now, so I'll give you a chance. If you really want to fight, it won't be as simple as giving up the mine. Yuan Gang, don't go too far. Lei Jun came over with a gloomy face. Yuan Gang glanced at the two people. Zhou, I'm asking Ji Chuan. What does it have to do with you? I advise you to mind your own business. If you stand with him, you have to be prepared to pay the price. Zhou looked at Yuan Gang with some fear. This guy's strength was really strong, stronger than theirs. Usually, he was simply a tyrant here. If possible, he only hoped that he would not have any contact with Yuan Gang. However, Ji Chuan had already cooperated with him twice. If they stood by and did nothing this time, this friendship would probably disappear. This was not the result he wanted. I'm afraid that Steward Ji has no other choice but a hand over the mine. I hope not. I heard that Yuan Gang's character is very violent. Although the mining rate of his number 3 mine is slightly lower, the difference is not too big. The reason why the results are not good these times is that he is too ruthless. Many people in his mine have lost their lives. If Steward Ji exchanges mine number 13, we will be the unlucky ones. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding practitioners all turned pale. This was definitely not good news. This is the mine I'm in charge of. I won't give it away, Di Baichen said calmly. Yuan Gang and the cultivators behind him all looked at Ji Chuan in surprise. Did this guy have a change of heart? The last time they met, they gave Ji Chuan a very unforgettable memory. He thought that everything would go smoothly this time, but he didn't expect this guy to be different from his usual self and become unyielding. So, you're saying that I didn't teach you enough last time? Yuan Gang's face darkened. He twisted his hands, and the sound of bones cracking could be heard. Seeing that Yuan Gang was about to make a move, Zhou couldn't help but stand up and say, "If you have something to say, let's talk about it. I think it's better to wait until the console comes. Privately exchanging mine tunnels is against the rules. Get out of my way." Yuan Gang waved his hand and directly pushed Zhou to the side. "As long as we discuss this matter, it won't be a problem. There is no need to trouble the console. Are you okay?" Lei Jun supported Zhou. Suddenly pushed, Zhou's face darkened, and the anger in his eyes could be vaguely seen. "I'm fine." Di Baichen glanced at Zhou and then looked at Yuan Gang. "This is a matter between us. There is no need to involve others." The end of this chapter. Chapter 72:13. Following Di Baichen's words, Yuan Gang burst into laughter as if he'd heard a funny joke. "Ha, what did I just hear? This coward said that he shouldn't implicate others?" Yuan Gang's friends all treated Di Baichen as the funniest joke. Zhou and Lei Jun also looked at Ji Chuan in astonishment. They didn't know why, but when they looked at the man in front of them, they felt as if something had changed. They clearly remembered that last time, Ji Chuan couldn't fight back at all against Yuan Gang. Because of this matter, Ji Chuan and Gu Jian had been thinking about how to solve it, and had even asked them about it. At that time, they didn't say much. None of them wanted to get involved with such a big trouble like Yuan Gang. However, now that Ji Chuan said that he would bear the responsibility alone, he felt somewhat apologetic in his heart. "Ji Chuan, don't be so shameless." Yuan Gang restrained his smile, and his gaze became vicious. "Pretending to be a hero at this time will only make you a coward later." Bang! A fierce fist suddenly struck out. Yuan Gang's body leaned back, and blood instantly came out of his nose. "You talk too much nonsense." Di Baichen waved his fist, his eyes full of disdain. The sudden change made all the people present dumbfounded. One by one, they looked at Di Baichen in disbelief, thinking that this guy must be crazy. Holy shit, am I seeing things? Ji Chuan actually dared to take the initiative to hit Yuan Gang? I think Ji Chuan is completely crazy. He can even do such a thing. Does he know that he's going to die today? Yuan Gang wiped his nose and looked at the scarlet blood in his hand. His gaze suddenly became extremely vicious. "You're courting death." Yuan Gang roared and rushed forward, fully displaying the strength of the elementary immortal stage. Bang! Di Baichen didn't back down. Almost at the same time, his figure was like a ghost, and his powerful fist once again smashed into Yuan Gang's body. End the battle quickly. Don't let others see any clues. Bailey Hongzhuang reminded him through voice transmission. Often, it was easiest to expose oneself during a fight. They simply didn't know what moves Ji Chuan was proficient in, and even his attributes were different. Once this information was exposed, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. When Yuan Gang felt Di Beichen's terrifying power for the second time, his expression became very strange. A while ago, when they had fought, Ji Chuan had been beaten by him. But now, Ji Chuan's strength was no longer inferior to his. How was this possible? Yuan Gang's heart was filled with shock. His attacks became even more ferocious, wreaking havoc like a violent storm. Di Beichun was as steady as Mount Tai. He didn't panic in the slightest because of Yuan Gang's increasingly fierce attacks. Moreover, as soon as he opened his third eye, he directly ignored those unnecessary movements and attacked Yuan Gang's vital points directly. He couldn't fight with Yuan Gang like this. The more he exposed, the bigger the problem. Almost everyone believed that Di Beichun had a dead end when facing Yuan Gang. Zhou Su thought that no matter what, he still had to help Ji Chuan, but he was pulled down by Lei Jun. "Don't throw yourself in," Lei Jun said in a deep voice. Zhou Su frowned. He couldn't even bear to look at Ji Chuan. Yuan Gang was the strongest among all the stewards. He was an existence that could do whatever he wanted. Last time, Ji Chuan was beaten to the point that he had to lie in bed for several days. This time, he was afraid that he couldn't even keep his life. The expected scream followed, but this sound seemed to be somewhat different. End of chapter. Chapter 72:14. Everyone looked at the man who had been knocked to the ground. Yuan Gang was covering his abdomen in pain and howling. Looking at this completely unexpected scene, everyone present was dumbfounded. Did I see it wrong? When did Ji Chuan become so strong? Last time, he was beaten so hard that he couldn't fight back. Yuan Gang was defeated as soon as they started fighting. I'm afraid the situation will change in the future. All of a sudden, everyone looked at Ji Chuan in a different way. Yuan Gang had always been the strongest person here. Ji Chuan could defeat Yuan Gang, which proved that he had become the strongest person here. What's going on? Zhou Su and Lei Jun stared at each other. They hadn't seen Ji Chuan for a while. How could he become so strong? Why did he need help? Looking at Yuan Gang, who had fallen to the ground, Di Beichun said slowly, "Get lost." You? Yuan Gang's eyes widened as he stared at Di Beichun. He felt a burning pain on his face. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, he had never been so humiliated, and now he had fallen to this extent. "I'll count to 3. If you don't get lost, I'll let them collect your corpse." 3, 2. Yuan Gang suddenly became anxious. The practitioners behind him didn't dare to delay. They hurriedly dragged Yuan Gang and ran away. They didn't doubt the truth of Ji Chuan's words at all. A group of people came in a mighty way, but now they quickly retreated like stray dogs. The change of a situation was unexpected, but the people in Mine 13 thought it was a good thing. At least, they didn't have to follow Yuan Gang. After everyone left, Zhou Su came over with a look of surprise. "Ji Chuan, I haven't seen you for a while. Your strength has improved so much. It happened that I made some progress. Your progress is not small. You even defeated Yuan Gang. In the future, you could do whatever you want. The role of cultivation resources is still very big," Bailey Hongzhuang said. Zhou Su nodded slightly. That's true. Part of the reason why their cultivation had always been slightly inferior was that their cultivation resources were not as good as Yuan Gang's. In addition to the cultivation resources he usually received, Yuan Gang also had other channels. It was because of this that so many people followed Yuan Gang. However, since you could defeat Yuan Gang now, you don't have to worry about anyone coming to make trouble for you in the future. Your mine's recent mining rate is quite high. You should have a good result in the next election," Lei Jun said. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Lei Jun. She had also noticed Zhou Su's previous actions. Obviously, between the two, Zhou Su was more reliable, calm. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't say much to the two of them. After all, they were just partners and couldn't be called friends. Noticing the slightly indifferent expressions of the two, Zhou Su and Lei Jun naturally understood what was going on. If they had participated in it just now, presumably the two would not have such an attitude. If only I had taken action just now. Zhou sighed. How could he not understand that if he could take advantage of this opportunity to win people's hearts, it could not be better? It was a pity that such a good opportunity was missed by him. It was impossible to do it again. The end of this chapter. Chapter 72:15. I'm to blame for this. Lei Jun was also a little embarrassed. If he hadn't stopped Zhou Su just now, it wouldn't have been like this. Zhou Su waved his hand slightly. You did it for my own good. Do you feel that Ji Chuan has become a little different? Lei Jun subconsciously looked at the tent, his eyes full of exploration. Normally, Ji Chuan was also very taciturn, but most of the time, he carried a kind of oppressive aura. But now, although Ji Chuan was still the same, his eyes were different, tenacious and spirited, giving off a completely different feeling. What's different? Zhou Su asked. I feel that his strength has become stronger. People are like this. When their strength is strong, even their aura has become stronger. That's true. Lei Jun nodded. Maybe that's it. Inside the room. We didn't expose too much just now, so no one should have noticed. Bailey Hongzhuang said. I just don't know if Yuan Gang will still find trouble. They had just arrived and didn't even know the other party's background. If the other party had no background, then as long as the fist was hard enough, it would be fine. But if the other party had a background, then it might be a hornet's nest. Let's wait and see. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's wrinkled little face and said with a smile, Don't think about it. I don't think they will find that woman today. You can rest assured. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's true. After returning, Yuan Gang lay on the bed with a gloomy face. Brother Yuan, are you all right? The man next to him was worried. Damn Ji Chuan, this guy actually hit my Ming Min. It's really bad luck. When everyone heard this, they understood that the Ming Min was a practitioner's weak spot. Once it was hit, it would be very bad. Generally speaking, it was not easy for the other party to see through the Ming Min. No one thought that Ji Chuan would be so powerful that he could see through Yuan Gang's Ming Min. In my opinion, this kid should be trying his luck. He doesn't have the strength to see through this at all. There's something wrong with this kid. Yuan Gang calmed down after his anger subsided. He usually doesn't have this ability, but he seems to be even calmer today. Maybe he heard about your Achilles heel from somewhere else and had something to rely on. That's why he's so confident today. Hearing this, Yuan Gang fell into deep thought. Apart from this explanation, they really couldn't think of any other explanation. You guys keep an eye on this kid for me. If there's any news, inform me immediately. I must get my number 13. Don't worry, Brother Yuan. We will. The situation was just as Di Beichun had predicted. Until the night, the woman that Zhou Su had threatened to send did not appear. She was completely relieved. Looking at Xiao He and Xiao Bai who had returned, Bailey Hongzhuang asked, Did you hear anything? We followed Zhou Su and the Lei army for a day, but there wasn't much news. However, I heard them say that they could go out and relax in 2 days. Xiao Bai said slowly, I think they should be talking about leaving the vicinity of the mine. Master, do you want to go with them? Xiao So was definitely not mining here. If they wanted to find her, they had to go to other places. Didn't you hear where they were going? No. Xiao Bai shook her head. End of this chapter. Chapter 72:16. Then we can only follow them. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands. They didn't know the situation in Dushin Domain. At present, they didn't know what other places looked like except for the situation near the mine. If they didn't find someone to lead the way, they wouldn't know the route at all, nor where they could go and where they couldn't go. When Xiao He and Xiao Bai saw that, Bailey Hongzhuang agreed. They quickly turned their eyes to Di Beichen. When the latter nodded slightly, the two little guys jumped up excitedly. Great! You want to go outside? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two little guys in surprise. Master, we haven't been to a fun place for a while. Xiao He looked helpless. There's nothing near the mine. It's really boring. It was also very boring when we were in the town. Xiao Bai added. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. That makes sense, but I wonder if there's a market in Dushin Domain. From the moment they entered here, all they saw were mines one after another. They even had a feeling that Dushian domain was a huge, spirit-devouring mine. It can't be that there isn't one, right? I don't know. 2 days later, Deep Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang appeared in front of Zhou Su in Shaohe. Ji Chuan, why are you here? Zhou Su asked in surprise. Where are you going? Di Beichun said casually. We saw that the weather today is good and we haven't gone out for a while, so we want to go out for a walk. Zhou Su smiled slightly. It's actually quite boring to stay here and face these guys all day. I wonder if we can go with you? You want to go too? Can't I? Of course you can. Zhou Su smiled faintly. We originally wanted to ask you to go with us, but we also know that you've always been uninterested in such things, so we didn't ask you. That's right. You usually don't participate in such things. Why are you suddenly interested today? Lei Jun was also somewhat baffled. Ji Chuan had always been a taciturn person. He had never been interested in this kind of thing. They had asked Ji Chuan several times in the past. After all, the two sides had a cooperative relationship. They also hoped to have a better relationship with Ji Chuan. However, after being rejected several times, they knew that Ji Chuan really didn't like going out, so they didn't ask anymore. A person's mentality will always change. Di Beichun smiled faintly, especially with the change in strength. Hearing this, Zhou Su and Ji Chuan understood. In the past, Yuan Gang had always been their local tyrant, and Ji Chuan was often targeted. Now that he had finally made a comeback, it was no surprise that Ji Chuan was in a good mood. Let's go. It's rare that everyone is in the mood to go out for a walk. I can also look for a girl that I'm looking for. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled wickedly. Hearing this, Zhou Su helplessly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't forget, there is still a girl waiting for you. Forget about that. I'll give it to you. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand, looking bored. It can't be. Didn't you like that girl very much before? Before is before. People always change. Bailey Hongzhuang repeated Di Beichun's words. She really didn't have the fortune to enjoy it. Okay. Zhou Su shook his head. The speed of your change of heart is really fast. This chapter ends. Chapter 72:17. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched when she heard Zhou Su call himself a scumbag. She could only take the blame. It just so happens that Lei Jun is short of a woman recently. It's just right to give her to him. Zhou Su turned his eyes to Lei Jun, and his eyes were full of pride. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It's good to treat her well. Lei Jun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang strangely. It's okay for others to say so, but is it really okay for you to say so? If you don't mind, I'll take her away. Lei Jun said. He had seen the woman, and she was really good looking. I don't mind at all. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, and then looked at Di Beichun. My heart belongs to someone. Zhou Su and Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was worried about Xiao Sou. This time, her temperament really changed. Only Di Beichun understood that this person belonged to him. Thinking about it, we haven't been to the market for a while. I have to buy some clothes. Lei Jun looked at his clothes. They rarely went to the market on weekdays. Since they were here, they simply bought what they needed to buy. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhou Su had been walking beside the two of them. They quietly looked around and memorized the route. This place is really far. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the surrounding mines. They had walked a long way, but the surrounding scenery had not changed much. If it weren't so, we wouldn't go to the market so often. The location of the spirit-devouring mine has always been very remote. Zhou Su spread out his hands and shook his head helplessly. In fact, I used to think that the reason why Ji Chuan didn't want to go to the market with us was that he was too lazy to walk so far. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang thought about it and only felt that it was indeed possible. Ji Chuan himself was definitely a person who was afraid of trouble. After walking for 2 hours, they finally saw the appearance of the market. From the moment they stepped into the bazaar, the sound of hawking filled their ears. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked at the bustling street. It seemed that no matter where it was, the market would look the same. The market in the crossing Immortal Domain was also very lively. Many cultivators were shuttling back and forth in the market. It looked very lively. It seems like not everyone in the crossing Immortal Domain is mining. Xiaohei sighed. Along the way, it started to feel that perhaps the entire crossing immortal domain was a mine. Who are these people? Bailey Hongzhuang looked confused. According to her understanding, most of the cultivators who had ascended to the crossing immortal domain had been captured to work in the mines. However, the people in front of her did not belong to such a situation. Some capable cultivators should be able to avoid that situation and live a good life in the crossing immortal domain, Di Beichan said with a faint smile. Indeed, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. No matter what kind of situation it was, there would always be some smart people who could break out of it and become the best of the best. There was no real despair. It was just a matter of whether you could open a path out of it. I suddenly have an idea. What idea? If we can't change the current situation in the crossing immortal domain, but we can become the best of the best here, then Father and the others will have no problem ascending, right? End of chapter. Chapter 72:18. That's a good idea. Di Beichan's eyes lit up. He knew that his father and the others were getting closer and closer to ascension. If there were no accidents, it should be around this time. That was why they were eager to go to the crossing immortal domain. Their ascension would be safe only if they solved the danger in the crossing immortal domain. Although life in the upper realm was very comfortable for cultivators, increasing their strength was their greatest pursuit. As long as they could avoid mining in the crossing immortal domain, cultivating here would be much faster than cultivating in the upper realm. The laws of heaven and earth in the upper realm couldn't allow cultivators to break through to the beginner immortal realm. Only the higher realms could do that. We have to find someone we can trust here to get the information we need. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. They didn't plan to stay in the crossing immortal domain for too long, so they had to do everything as soon as possible. We'll find him soon. Di Beichan looked confident. Give them some time, and they would definitely figure out the situation here. We're finally here. Lei Jun looked at the market in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. I'll go buy something I want first. What about you? You go buy first. We'll look around here, Di Beichan said. Okay, don't go too far. We'll be back soon. After Zhou Su and Lei Jun left, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan also looked around. Do you think Xiao Sou is the kind of person who has a good status in the crossing immortal domain? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the ladies who walked past her. These people looked very confident, just like the people in the chaotic immortal domain. With Xiao Sou's ability, if she really ascended to the crossing immortal domain, I don't think it's possible with her strength alone. Di Beichan looked thoughtful. The reason why she could establish herself here so quickly must be because of Shu Yu's help. According to Xiao Feng and the others, Shu Yu hasn't appeared for a long time. Could it be the two of them looked at each other and had a guess in their hearts? If they were not wrong, perhaps Shu Yu was in the crossing celestial region now. Back then, he was able to escape from the crossing immortal region, which already proved his ability. Perhaps he has already found a way to survive here. If that's really the case, perhaps we can narrow down the scope. Indeed, we should come here more often when we have time. There aren't many people who have seen Xiao Sou. We can also try to find someone who knows Shu Yu. However, we don't know how big the immortal crossing is. I'm afraid that it won't be too small. They had seen how big the realm of chaos was. Although the crossing immortal realm was not as big as the chaotic immortal realm, it was able to accommodate so many cultivators who had ascended from different places. Don't worry, our progress is already very good. Di Beichan smiled faintly. Moreover, we can still find helpers. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes lit up. You're saying to ask Xiao Feng and the others to come over? Haven't they always wanted to see what the crossing immortal realm looks like? As long as they can find a safe place here, they won't be caught to mine. It'll be very convenient to find people here. That's true. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. After a few days, we can ask them to come over. Otherwise, it'll be like looking for a needle in a haystack with just the two of us. End of chapter. Chapter 72:19. Hey, what did you two buy? Zhou Su and Lei Jun rushed over after buying things. The former put one hand directly on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. Bailey Hongzhuang's body stiffened, and she looked at the hand on her shoulder with a slightly complicated expression. This guy, after Zhou Su approached, he vaguely smelled a fragrance. Suddenly, he had some doubts in his heart. Why did he smell such a good smell on Gu Jian's body? Gu Jian, you didn't have a soft fragrance in your arms last night, did you? Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and then she understood. Do I have to tell you this kind of thing? Di Beichan pulled Zhou Su over with one hand. Let me see what you bought. I didn't buy anything. I just bought a few clothes with Lei Jun. I don't come out often, so I have to buy these things. You also know that the cultivation resources we have are not enough for our own use. We don't have spare money to buy these things. Look at Lei Jun's clothes. How shabby are they? It's shameful to wear them. Now that we have enough money, we should buy 2 outfits. They look more comfortable. That's true. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The clothes you are wearing are indeed a little old. How can we compare with you? Zhou Su squinted. Among them, Gu Jian was the most well-off. This guy was mercenary. Anyway, they would only suffer losses if they were with him. I'll take it as a compliment. The 4 of them wandered around the neighborhood again. Lei Jun also went to the weapon pavilion, intending to exchange for a more convenient weapon. However, the price also made him extremely distressed. However, he had been eyeing this weapon for a long time, and finally, he reluctantly bought it. The prices here are really expensive. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the things in the weapon pavilion, and her eyebrows were full of confusion. The prices here were much higher than the prices they usually dealt with. They were not at the same level at all. Even in the realm of chaotic immortal, this price was exorbitant. However, she also noticed that the people here didn't seem to find it strange at all. Therefore, she didn't dare to ask directly and could only sigh. Sure enough, after he finished speaking, Zhou Su immediately followed up with his own words. It can't be helped. The entrance to the Crossing Immortal Domain was sealed. There aren't many resources in the Crossing Immortal Domain. Everything here is much more expensive than outside. I do want to leave the Crossing Immortal Realm. The price here is really unacceptable. I heard that the people in the chaotic immortal realm have a much better life than us. It is also easier for them to obtain cultivation resources. Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood. In a place where one could only rely on self-sufficiency, the price would indeed be higher. What's the point of just hearing about it? The more you think about it, the more unbalanced you feel. Zhou Su looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Gu Jian, I always thought that you were the most cunning. Now it seems that you are quite open-minded. The reason why we are not as cunning as Gu Jian may lie in this. Lei Jun also nodded. He felt that Gu Jian's ability to adapt to the environment was much better than theirs. Speaking of which, Gu Jian, since you are so cunning, you should use the right path more. Otherwise, you won't be suppressed by Yuan Gang all the time. What right path? Bailey Hongzhuang was confused. This chapter ends. Chapter 72:20. You're so smart, and your flattery skills must be unparalleled. Zhou Su waved his hand. If you can coax the consul, then we won't have to be controlled by Yuan Gang all the time. Although Yuan Gang's strength is strong, we may not be unable to deal with him if we join forces. The biggest problem is that he coaxes the consul very happily. Every time there is a problem, the consul always helps him, so we don't want to offend him. Wasn't that what you were worried about in the past? Oh, you're talking about this. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to have known it long ago, but she couldn't help sighing in her heart. Sure enough, the reason why this guy is so arrogant is that he has a certain reliance. It's not so easy to please the consul. Yuan Gang and the consul have a fixed relationship for a long time. It's difficult for us to break them apart. Di Beichan said slowly. You're right. Zhou Su sighed. This is the biggest problem. Although you taught Yuan Gang a lesson this time, it's hard to guarantee that this guy won't deal with you in other ways. It's not hard to guarantee, it's certain. Lei Jun looks certain. He has never suffered in our mind. With the consul's protection, he wants to bully us. This time, he lost face in front of so many people. He must be angry. I think we'd better be mentally prepared. When the consul comes, this guy will definitely find a way to complain about us. We haven't done anything wrong recently. He shouldn't be able to find a reason, right? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. That's not necessarily true. Late June shook his head. I heard that the consul is very good to him. I even heard that Yuan Gang has more cultivation resources than us every time. Really? Zhou was also dumbfounded. So excessive? I also heard it from others, but I don't think this kind of thing is groundless. Indeed. Di Baichen nodded. It seems that we have to be mentally prepared. I didn't think that Ji Chuan would leave us such a mess after we arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head helplessly. Yesterday, when she saw Yuan Gang's appearance, she knew that trouble was inevitable. She had not seen this consul yet, but she had to pass this hurdle if she wanted to. Wow, it smells so good. Xiaohei stretched her neck and sniffed the fragrance wafting in the air. Her eyes were filled with desire. Bailey Hongzhuang also smelled this very tempting fragrance and noticed the envious looks of the two little fellows at the side. She understood that these two gluttons must have seen the delicious food and couldn't walk. Rutacii Brothel's drunken fragrant chicken is really fragrant. Even when I walk past the entrance, I can smell that incomparably alluring aroma. Zhou looked at Rutacii House's entrance with yearning. I've wanted to try this drunken fragrant chicken for a long time, but the price is too expensive. It's really not worth it just to satisfy my appetite. Lei Jun looked helplessly at Zhou. You've already talked about it so many times. If you really want to try it, then go. Although it's expensive, it's not like we can't afford it. Hearing the two's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was also helpless. Cultivators of the Radiant Sun realm were simply existences that could call the wind and summon the rain in the lower planes. In this crossing a mortal domain, they couldn't even afford to eat. The contrast was really too big. Chapter 72:21. If you want to go in, then go in. Why are you standing at the gate for so long? Bailey Hongzhuang stepped out and walked directly to Rutacii House. Hey, Gu Jian. Zhou was dumbfounded. He was just thinking about it. How could this guy directly go in? After all, there were 4 of them. After a meal, his cultivation resources had shrunk by quite a bit. At this time, a sound of nature came out from inside. Don't worry, it's my treat. Hearing this, Zhou suddenly opened his eyes wide. There was a bright light flashing in them. Gu Jian, is what you said true? Nonsense. Ah, Zhou laughed and quickly followed. You're so happy to be scolded? Lei Jun was speechless. What's the point of scolding? The most important thing is that Gu Jian is willing to treat us to drunken chicken. Zhou face was proud. He put his hand on Lei Jun's shoulder and dragged him in. I recently found that Gu Jian doesn't seem to be as annoying as we thought. This guy also has his merits. Aren't you being bought over a little too quickly? Don't you think so? Actually, I think so too. Lei Jun nodded seriously. Randomly choosing a place in the lobby, the 4 people sat down. 2 drunken chicken. Zhou waved his hand. Looking at Zhou's impatient appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. It seemed that this guy really wanted to eat drunken chicken for a long time. Where was his usual steady appearance? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the menu and found that the price on it was indeed much more expensive than outside. Especially this drunken chicken, as a signature dish, the price was even higher. You choose. Bailey Hongzhuang handed the menu to Di Baichen. The latter naturally picked up the menu and ordered a few dishes that Bailey Hongzhuang liked to eat. Ji Chuan, the dishes you ordered are like what women like to eat. There are even desserts? Zhou looked at Ji Chuan in surprise. He had never eaten with Ji Chuan and didn't know that his taste was like this. Is there a problem? Di Baichen raised his eyebrows. No, I'm just curious. It's good that someone invites you to dinner. You still talk so much. Be careful that someone doesn't invite you later. You'll be finished, Lei Jun said with disgust. All right, I'll shut up. Not long after, the waiter had already served all the dishes. Smelling the tempting fragrance, Zhou laughed. Then I won't be polite. You don't look like someone who would be polite. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Go ahead. Di Baichen raised his chopsticks, picked up a piece of chicken, and placed it naturally into Bailey Hongzhuang's bowl. Seeing this, Zhou and Lei Jun's hands paused slightly. They didn't know why, but why did they feel that Ji Chuan treated Gu Jian extraordinarily well? Bailey Hongzhuang also noticed that something was wrong when the 2 of them looked at each other. She couldn't help but glance at Di Baichen. He was used to taking care of her on weekdays, but he forgot that their identities were not the same now. However, Di Bachin looked indifferent and looked at the two people opposite him. Is there a problem? No, no. Zhou Su and Lei Jun shook their heads like rattles and quickly turned their eyes to the wine and dishes in front of them. Shopkeeper, a drunken chicken. A man walked into a rotisserie restaurant and looked at the shopkeeper with great familiarity. Take away again? Brother Yuan didn't have much time, so he took them all away. Chapter 72:22. Wait a moment, it will be ready soon. The shopkeeper walked to the side and instructed the waiter. The man stood in the middle of the room, his gaze casually looking at the hall. However, when he noticed the four familiar figures in the middle of the hall, his expression immediately changed. When he clearly saw the dishes the four had ordered, his gaze became even more strange. In the next instant, he did not bother to explain to the shopkeeper and turned to run out. Brother Yuan, Brother Yuan. Du Bing, why are you in such a hurry? Yuan Gang frowned and looked at the person in displeasure. Have you bought the drunken fragrant chicken? No. Then why did you run back? Yang Jiong asked doubtfully. I just saw Ji Chuan and the others at Rotisserie restaurant. As soon as these words came out, Yuan Gang's expression suddenly changed. What did you say? It's true, I guarantee that I didn't see wrongly. Du Bing's expression was serious. Moreover, they ordered a lot of dishes and wine, looking very unrestrained. I noticed that there were 2 servings of drunken fragrant chicken. Brother Yuan, this isn't right. Yang Jiong could not help but say, Ji Chuan and the others don't have many cultivation resources. Normally, they're already lacking in cultivation resources. How could they have the ability to come here to eat and drink? There is indeed something wrong. Yuan Gang narrowed his eyes. Yuan Gang narrowed his eyes. He had been keeping an eye on Ji Chuan for a long time, but he had never heard of such a thing before. Moreover, he always felt that it was unreasonable for Ji Chuan's strength to suddenly become so strong. It had not been long since the last time they fought. It was impossible for this guy's strength to increase so much in such a short period of time. It was really strange. The most important thing was that he could still eat and drink like this. Could it be that this guy had found a way to obtain cultivation resources? Let's go take a look. Yuan Gang immediately walked towards Rotisserie restaurant. Du Bing and the others saw this and hurriedly followed. The taste of drunken fragrant chicken is indeed similar to what I imagined. It's really delicious. Zhou Su's face was full of happiness. Usually, he stayed in the mine. That place was really too barren. Even the food here did not taste good. The taste of drunken fragrant chicken is naturally not bad, but with just a few of you, can you really afford it? An ear-piercing voice sounded from behind Zhou Su. Hearing this rough and familiar voice, Zhou Su hurriedly turned his head. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also raised their heads. After seeing Yuan Gang's group, they only felt that enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. After the shopkeeper heard that Di Beichen's party may not be able to afford the meal, he quickly rushed over. The dishes ordered for this table were not few. If the other party intended to eat a free meal, then it would be bad. Brother Yuan, did you just say that they can't afford it? The shopkeeper asked anxiously. Yuan Gang's lips curled into a sneer. These guys are from our mine, but they've always been poor. I've never seen them so extravagant. Hearing this, the shopkeeper's expression changed, and he hurriedly said, Guests, this is a small business. You can't eat here for free. As soon as he said that, the surrounding people looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 with complicated gazes. Eating and dashing was looked down upon no matter where one went. Who said we're going to eat for free? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression turned cold. They did not have this intention at all. They never thought that the shopkeeper would directly put this on their heads without saying anything. End of chapter. Chapter 72:23. Since you don't intend to eat for free, please pay up first. The shopkeeper's face was cold. The people in front of him were indeed unfamiliar. He had never seen them before. Compared to them, Yuan Gang was undoubtedly much more familiar. Smack! Bailey Hongzhuang slammed a bag of blood spirit stones on the table. Her expression was as cold as ice. Look carefully, we are not poor people. Looking at the dazzling blood spirit stones on the table, the pupils of the surrounding people shrank. They could tell that these people were rich with one move. Not to mention a meal, they could even afford to eat. The shopkeeper obviously did not expect this situation, but he was quickly filled with surprise. He hurriedly said, "Thank you." "Wait." Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly put away the blood spirit stones. Her gaze shifted from Yuan Gang to the shopkeeper. "Originally, we did not intend to eat and dash. However, you rushed over and slandered us for no reason. We haven't even finished our meal. How are we going to settle this account?" The shopkeeper also knew that he was in the wrong. He was too anxious after listening to Yuan Gang's words. His attitude was indeed unpleasant. "Sir, what do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Then, her expression turned cold again. "I hate it when people slander me. Since you said that we are eating and dashing, I can only confirm this matter." Zhou Su and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. After the initial panic, they actually felt very happy when facing her like this. That's right. That's what we should do. This thought surfaced in their minds. This was the right thing to do. The shopkeeper was instantly dumbfounded. He subconsciously looked at Yuan Gang. How did things turn out like this? If he had not listened to Yuan Gang's words, things would not have become so tense. When Yuan Gang saw Bailey Hongzhuang take out the blood spirit stones, his eyes narrowed. He did not expect Gu Jian to have so many blood spirit stones on him. Originally, according to his judgment, these fellows should have been penniless. This man is also interesting. He inexplicably rushed in and said that they have no money to pay. Isn't this nonsense? But the shopkeeper still believes him. If it were me, I would do the same. Otherwise, why would I be slandered for no reason? "Brother Yuan, look at this." The shopkeeper looked at Yuan Gang awkwardly. For a moment, he did not know what to do. "Gu Jian, the grudge between us is our own business. Why do you have to implicate others?" "I'm implicating others?" Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. "We were just eating here, and you guys came looking for trouble without saying anything, right? I'm only doing this to fulfill your wish. Otherwise, if I really paid the money, wouldn't you be slandering me?" Yuan Gang's face stiffened. "With your usual situation, you can't afford to come to this place." "Oh." Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. "I don't think we are very familiar with each other. I know nothing about your situation. Why do you know so much about mine? If you want to fight, just say it. Don't talk about other things." Di Beichen also said indifferently. Seeing this, Yuan Gang could not help but recall the situation when Di Beichen taught him a lesson 2 days ago. A trace of fear appeared in his eyes. End of chapter. Chapter 72-24. Don't think you're so great just because you're strong. We all know how much our monthly salary is. Since you dare to come here, the problem is already very clear. Yuan Gang's face was livid. "When the consul arrives, I'll report everything that happened today. Then, you'll have to pray for yourself. Let's go." Yuan Gang turned around and left. He hadn't completely recovered from his injury. Once they fought, he would definitely be no match for them. If he wanted revenge, he would wait for the consul to come. Du Bing and the others didn't expect that the situation would end like this. But since Yuan Gang was ready to leave, they naturally wouldn't continue to stay here. "Wait." Bailey Hongzhuang stopped him. Yuan Gang turned his head. "What do you want to do?" "Nothing." Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was mild. "You've ruined our mood to eat. We're not interested in staying here anymore. You'll pay for this meal." With her words, Yuan Gang's anger suddenly rose in his eyes. "What did you say? Are you deaf? You dare to talk to me like this?" Yuan Gang's cold voice was full of threat. "Who do you think you are?" Bailey Hongzhuang sneered disdainfully. "I'll give you 2 choices. 1, pay the money and leave. 2, be beaten up by us and then leave. Which one do you choose?" At the same time, Di Beichen had already walked to Bailey Hongzhuang. A faint hostility broke out from his body. Like a flood, a terrible momentum shrouded Yuan Gang and the others. Du Bing and the others were all dumbfounded. They had always been unscrupulous with Yuan Gang. Who would have thought that now they would be threatened like this? The most important thing was that they didn't have many people here today. If they really fought, what Gu Jian said was indeed not a lie. Zhou Su and Lei Jun looked at each other. They had always thought that Gu Jian was a mouse. No matter what happened, he would hide behind and benefit from it. What had happened recently? How was Gu Jian a mouse now? He was a tiger. To be able to be so unyielding in the face of Yuan Gang, coupled with Ji Chuan's martial prowess, these two simply felt like big shots. Yuan Gang stared at the two of them for a long time. His face first turned red from anger, then turned green, and finally became as black as the bottom of a pot. In the end, he threw the blood spirit stone on the table. Ji Chuan, Gu Jian, I'll remember you. This matter isn't over yet. Just wait and see. Yuan Gang left these words behind and quickly left Ratisi brothel with the others. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Originally, they thought that Yuan Gang's group was here to cause trouble. Unexpectedly, Di Beichen's group was the real deal. With just a few words, they drove the other party away. Moreover, they made the other party feel so aggrieved. Di Beichen then sat down again. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang also sat down. Seeing this, Zhou Su couldn't help but ask in surprise, "You're not leaving? It's rare for someone to treat us. Wouldn't it be a pity to waste so much food like this?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. They hadn't eaten many mouthfuls of this big table of dishes. Looking at the two people who continued to eat as if nothing had happened, Zhou Su scratched his hair. He only felt that what they said was quite reasonable. With your attitude just now, aren't you afraid of Yuan Gang's revenge? Lei Jun was a little guilty. When he thought of the console, he had a headache. This chapter ends. Chapter 72:25. If we don't do this, he won't be so against us? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Don't be silly. He has already hated us. Even if you compromise now, he won't let us go. Instead of that, it's better to confront him directly. At least it's more pleasant. Zhou Su thought about it and had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was telling the truth. You're right. Yuan Gang won't let us go. In another month, the console will come to us. What are you going to do then? Lei Jun came over and lowered his voice to ask, have you already thought about how to deal with it? No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Don't lie to us. Now we're all grasshoppers on the same boat. If there's really a way, we don't have to be afraid. What I said is true. Bailey Hongzhuang said calmly. No way. Zhou Su was dumbfounded. You didn't think of any way? Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Di Bei Chen's gentle voice sounded. Zhou Su and Lei Jun looked at the two people's unhurried appearance and were completely convinced. The situation had become so serious. How could these two guys still be so indifferent? If it doesn't work, just do as you said. Seeing that Zhou Su and Lei Jun were so anxious to eat, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but speak. What did I say? What did I say? Flatter the console. Zhou Su saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was serious and didn't seem to be joking at all. He couldn't help but be dumbfounded. How could this guy say such a joke so seriously and calmly? Well, I won't joke with you. Bailey Hongzhuang put down her chopsticks. Do you know why Yuan Gang can be so close to the console? If we know the reason, we can find a way to start from here. Di Beichen said. Zhou Su turned to look at Lei Jun, do you know? I heard someone mention it before, but it wasn't very clear at the time. However, I can go and ask around. Then I'll leave this mission to you. Let us know when you found out more about it. Di Beichen narrowed his eyes. If they wanted to gain a foothold in the mine, they had to deal with Yuan Gang first. If they could take the opportunity to build a good relationship with the console, then their position would become very stable. Perhaps they could also take the opportunity to find a way for their family to gain a foothold here. If they couldn't do it, they could only take the opportunity to kill Yuan Gang, which was also a solution. Don't worry, I will do it as soon as possible. Lei Jun said seriously. After Yuan Gang's ruckus, the four of them no longer had the mood to continue playing in the market. After all, the number one thing they needed to deal with right now was Yuan Gang. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also didn't find Xiao Sou's figure, but being able to get closer to Zhou Su was also a gain for them. At least these two people seemed to have believed them and began to treat them as their own people. After Yuan Gang went back, he was furious. Although he didn't fight today, he felt more shameful than a few days ago. Losing without a fight was tantamount to directly admitting that he was not Ji Chuan's opponent at all. When the consul arrives, I must kill this guy. Brother Yuan, don't be angry. Just let them be proud for a while. Then they will be finished. Du Bing comforted him. End of this chapter. Chapter 72:26. Yuan Gang's face was extremely gloomy. Even in the face of several familiar people, he still felt ashamed. There must be a reason why Ji Chuan and the others suddenly became so tough. Yuan Gang's voice was cold and full of resentment. I must find out the root of this matter. These guys may have secretly embezzled the spirit-devouring stone. Otherwise, they couldn't suddenly become so generous. He was almost sure that Ji Chuan's previous strength was not fake. So, there is only one reason why his strength could suddenly improve so much. He embezzled it. Only by embezzling the spirit-devouring stone and using it to exchange for other cultivation resources could he make such great progress. Otherwise, with Ji Chuan's level, relying on the resources distributed on weekdays would not make much progress at all. Embezzled. Du Bing and others looked at each other. Embezzling the spirit-devouring stone was no stranger to every steward. Every steward would secretly hide 2 pieces of spirit-devouring stone when they handed it in, because it was also of great use to them. Basically, it was something that was tacitly agreed. Brother Yuan, even if they embezzled it, I'm afraid they can't embezzle so much, right? Du Bing was a little doubtful. The number of spirit-devouring stone they had a hand in every month was already a lot, and in some months, they couldn't even gather enough. Generally speaking, it was basically impossible to get so many spirit-devouring stones at the level that they could gather. Jiong, have you found anything recently? Yang Jiong shook his head. Ji Chuan and the others basically stay in the mine on weekdays and rarely go to other places. I haven't observed their other actions. Keep an eye on them. They definitely have a way. Yuan Gang emphasized. Brother Yuan, don't worry. I'll keep an eye on them. If there's the slightest movement, I'll inform you as soon as possible. Yuan Gang showed a satisfied expression. Let's try to find out about this matter before the consul arrives. After Bailey Hongzhuang and others returned to the mine, Lei Jun had already tried to find a way to understand the relationship between Yuan Gang and the consul at the first time. There was no impenetrable wall in this world. Even if Yuan Gang usually hit it well, as long as he put in a little effort, there would still be some channels to understand. I think we should go to the market more often. We have to start looking for Xiao So there. Bailey Hongzhuang was deep in thought. There was no hope for the mine, but in the current situation, they could not abandon this identity. All the cultivators in the crossing celestial domain were registered. Unless they had worked in the mine for a certain number of years or had made a special contribution, they could resign from their position and go to other places. Otherwise, without this identity, it was very likely that they would be captured and forced to mine. We have more freedom here. As long as we can fulfill our monthly quota, it won't be a problem for us to go to other places. Di Beichun said slowly. They didn't get much information from Zhou Su and the others today, especially some common sense questions. It was precisely because it was a question of common sense that it was easy to be exposed when asked. Therefore, he could only ask about it in a roundabout way. He really didn't know much. Should we find a day to get Zhou Su drunk? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes lit up, and a plan suddenly sprouted. Into this chapter. Chapter 72:27. After spending time with Zhou Su for the past few days, she felt that Zhou Su was not guarded against them at all. Especially in the past few days, he had obviously treated them as his own people. If they took the opportunity to get him drunk and asked him some simple questions, he would definitely answer them without hesitation. If he thinks it's strange, you can play dumb. I'll say that you like to ask these meaningless questions when you're drunk, and he won't take it to heart. Di Beichun looked at the woman who was talking excitedly, as if she had figured everything out. He couldn't help but smile. Madam, why do you want me to play dumb? I'm not very good at it. Bailey Hongzhuang said matter-of-factly. Also, from what I can see, Ji Chuan was not very close to them before, so they don't know much about you. So, they won't know much about you when you're drunk, and the possibility of the plan succeeding is higher. What do you think? Madam, you've already figured everything out for me, so I can only follow your orders. Di Beichin said with a faint smile. Will it really work? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with uncertainty. Madam, of course, your plan will work. Looking at Di Beichin's smiling face, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but twitch her mouth. She didn't know if this guy was laughing at her on purpose. 2 days later, Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang went to the market again. In the end, they bought a map from a shop. Looking at the map, they had a rough understanding of the environment of the crossing celestial realm. According to their current location, they were only in the east of the crossing celestial realm. The crossing celestial realm was not small, and there were also cities, but the scale was undoubtedly much smaller than the chaotic celestial realm. It's a big task to find Xiao Sou in such a big area. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. They didn't have any clues at the moment. It was not easy to find such a person. In my opinion, why don't we let Xiaofeng and the others come over first? With their help, it'll be much faster. Di Beichin nodded slightly. Let them come over first. If you're worried about being exposed, then grab a few identity cards first. With their abilities, it shouldn't be a problem. All right. That night, Di Xiaofeng and the others appeared in the crossing immortal domain. This is the crossing immortal domain? Di Xiaofeng scanned his surroundings. At first glance, he felt that it was no different from the chaotic immortal realm. That's right. The cultivators here are all at the brilliant sun realm and the brilliant sun realm. You guys shouldn't have to worry here. However, we can't guarantee that there won't be any initial sun realm cultivators. Do you guys have any clues? Di Xiaofeng glanced at them and asked. Di Beichin handed the map over. Look at it yourself. The crossing immortal domain is not small. Right now, we don't have any specific information about Xiao Sou's whereabouts. However, we can confirm that Xiao Sou has indeed appeared in the crossing immortal domain. This place is so big. If we want to find her, just the two of us won't be enough. We'll have to rely on your help. Hearing that, Xiren waved his hand. Don't worry. Leave this to us. It's best not to make too much of a fuss during the search. We don't want to attract unnecessary attention. Don't worry. We know what to do. Chapter 72-28. After talking for a while, Di Xiaofeng and the others had a certain understanding of the current situation. So, you don't know much about the situation in the Du Immortal Domain. We don't know much at the moment, but after we stay in a mine for a while, we should know more. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. We have rented a courtyard here. You can live here for the time being, and try not to attract attention. We'll ask around here for now. After we know more about the situation, we'll go to other places. Di Beichin said in a deep voice. Understood. I think it won't be long before we find Xiao Sou. The key has been in her hands for so long. It's time to take it back. Di Xiaofeng narrowed his eyes. He already hated this woman from the bottom of his heart. He must take back the Di family's inheritance. He couldn't let it be destroyed by this woman. Actually, we could do a small business. Shangguan Yingying thought for a while and said, Didn't you say that the things here are more expensive? If we sell the things from the upper realm? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. In terms of cultivation resources, the Du Immortal Domain naturally didn't care about the things from the upper realm. However, the things needed for daily life were in high demand here. If they did business here, on one hand, they could accumulate more cultivation resources for the Di family. On the other hand, they could also get more information through doing business. Perhaps they could get information faster than Di Beichin and the others in the mine. Yingying, you came up with a good idea. Bailey Hongzhuang praised. After we go back, we'll find a way to get Gong Jun out. With him, your business should be more successful. Gong Jun was best at doing business. Even if it was a different place and type of business, it shouldn't be difficult for him. Gong Jun is here too? Bali Yin Che was shocked. Isn't he in Shiyin City? Qing Devil is chasing after us now. He came to the crossing immortal domain to inform us after knowing about this. Hearing the name Qing Devil, everyone couldn't help but feel nervous. This guy had caused them a lot of trouble before. This guy really appeared? That's right. Right now, he is in the immortal realms and has a certain amount of power. If we encounter him, there would be unavoidable trouble. Xiao Sou is also here now. If the Qing Devil joins her, won't it be troublesome? He hadn't found Xiao Sou all this time. If the Qing Devil met her, Although he wasn't sure whether the Qing devil had feelings for her, it was true that she had given birth to the Qing devil child. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. Considering this, Qing devil would definitely take care of Xiao Sou. It's indeed a little troublesome. Deep Beichin nodded. So we have to find Xiao Sou before the Qing devil arrives. Does the Qing devil know that you are in the crossing immortal domain now? I don't think so. But with his ability, I'm afraid it's only a matter of time. Everyone's hearts sank. This was not good news. Let's take it one step at a time. Let's find Xiao Sou first and solve this problem. After we go to the immortal domain, we still have a chance to fight against the Qing devil if we encounter him. Di Xiaofeng said in a deep voice. You should pay more attention during this period. End of this chapter. Chapter 72:29. Boss, is what you're saying true? Gongjun looked at Deep Beichan excitedly. Recently, he had been staying in the mine and pretending to mine. It was really boring. He had been hoping that his boss would get him out sooner. He didn't expect that his boss would not only save him, but also let him do his old job. This was simply too blissful. You don't want to? Di Beichan raised his eyebrows. No. Gongjun hurriedly waved his hand. Happiness came too suddenly. I can't believe it. They plan to open a restaurant. It's very convenient to get information. You'll be the shopkeeper. Doing business is secondary. Getting information is the most important thing. Do you understand? Boss, actually, I can do these two things very well together. Gongjun chuckled. With my strength, once this restaurant is opened, it definitely won't be worse than that Ritasi brothel you're talking about. In short, getting information about Xiao Sou is the most important thing. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized. Gongjun had always been most interested in business. It was impossible for him to not spend energy on this matter. Sister-in-law, how could I forget such an important thing? Gongjun regained his serious expression. But who is this woman? Why did you run so far to find her? She's our opponent in the upper realm. Later, she ran away. We haven't been able to find her. She ran so far, and we're still looking for her? Gongjun was speechless. This was simply a 10,000-mile chase. She took away the secret key passed down in the Beichen family, so we have to find her. Gongjun's expression changed slightly. The secret key to unlock the seal? How do you know about unlocking the seal? Deep Beichun suddenly asked. Gongjun chuckled. I've heard them talk about it before, but I never took it to heart. How could there be such a thing as a seal? Di Beichun glanced at Gongjun before withdrawing his gaze. I'm not too sure either, but the family inheritance seems to be very important to me. Boss, as the successor of the clan, we naturally have to find such an important thing. If the clan's inheritance is lost, how terrible would that be? Gongjun lowered his gaze, and his eyes gradually darkened. That's why you have to be more careful. Bailey Hongzhuang laughed faintly. Actually, Yinshe is also very good at gathering information. Just by relying on that face of his, he can gather information very quickly. In just a few days of preparation, Gongjun, Di Xiaofeng, and the others had already opened the restaurant and named it Returning Imperial Restaurant. When she heard the name, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt very helpless. It was really easy to get it. Di Beichen's restaurant, so it was named Chun Giang Tower. How is it? My name isn't bad, right? Gongjun looked at Di Beichen expectantly. I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's meaningful and pleasant to the ears. It's indeed not bad. Bailey Yinshe nodded slightly. It's concise and comprehensive. Di Beichen looked at the 3 golden words on the plaque and didn't comment. Have you guys chosen the chef? We found 2 chefs from a clan. I've tasted them, and the taste is very good. Di Xiaofeng said. Di Beichen handed a Cosmos bag to Gongjun. There are some fruits in here that can be used as a specialty here. Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw that familiar fruit. That was a top-grade treasure. Boss, once this treasure is out, the price will be set very high. Chapter 72:30. If it's high, then so be it. In any case, this place has always been expensive. So what if you ask for a sky-high price? Di Beichen's expression was calm. His gaze fell on a signboard of the returning Chun Tower. Use this to make the returning Chun Tower's signboard famous. As soon as this was said, Gongjun immediately became interested. He wasn't afraid of asking for a high price. but he was afraid that his boss wouldn't agree. Now, that even his boss had said such words, what else did he have to worry about? Boss, leave this matter to me. I guarantee that the returning Chun Tower's reputation will soon be famous. We believe in your ability. Di Xiaofeng and the others also revealed smiles. From now on, the returning Chun Tower would be their base in the crossing immortal domain. If the returning Chun Tower's reputation really becomes famous in the future, the family's disciples won't be helpless here. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with excitement. Thinking back to a few years ago, his vision was still limited to the entire upper realm. He almost didn't even think about this kind of thing. In just a few years, not only did his life change, but even the entire Di family had hope. He began to believe that the Di family could go from the upper realm to a higher realm. The entire family had unlimited future and possibilities. All of this was because of Di Beichun. My number 13. Di Beichun looked at the account book handed over by his subordinate. It clearly recorded the daily income of the devouring spirit stones. Yuan Gang's greed wasn't without reason. The mines or yield was indeed good. Correspondingly, he also ordered his subordinates not to make things too difficult for these mining cultivators. After experiencing the pain of mining, he also understood how difficult it was to survive in this mine. What's more, the number of cultivators who died in each mine was not small. The more they were exploited, the faster the cultivators would die. It would take a long time to obtain a certain amount of replenishment. As a result, the situation would only get worse. Ji Chuan, Gu Jian. Zhou Su walked over from not far away. Have you heard anything? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Zhou Su shook his head slightly. I'm not good at inquiring about information. It's more reliable to leave it to Lei Jun. I heard that he has already inquired about some things, but it will take some time to be completely sure. That's true. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This kind of thing must be investigated thoroughly. There can't be the slightest mistake. Yuan Gang would definitely keep this information confidential, and he might even release some fake information. Therefore, it was very important to distinguish this point. Don't worry. Lei Jun has always been very capable in this regard. There's no problem with him taking action. There is not much time left before the consul comes here. Lei Jun has to hurry up. Di Beichun said. He knows that too. I think he's been quite busy recently. By the way, have you heard that a new restaurant opened in the city recently? What restaurant? Bailey Hongzhuang subconsciously glanced at Di Beichun with a faint smile in her eyes. It seems to be called Guichun Tower. This name is quite special. How do you know what kind of restaurant opened? You've been running there a lot recently, haven't you? Bailey Hongzhuang joked. I do run there a lot, but the reason why I know about Guichun Tower is that its reputation has been too loud recently. Everyone knows about it. Chapter 72:31. Everyone doesn't know? Isn't that too exaggerated? Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be in disbelief. She also wanted to know what other people's evaluation of Guichun restaurant was. What I said is not the least bit exaggerated. Zhou Su's face was stern. You guys usually don't pay much attention to these things, but I've heard quite a bit from others. I heard that when Guichun restaurant first opened, everyone was completely stunned by the signature fruit there. It was completely at a sky-high price. When everyone saw the price, the first thing they thought was that it was a completely unscrupulous shop. But when they looked at the other dishes, the price was not too outrageous, which made them feel strange. Because the price was simply sky-high, no one bought their signature fruit for a while. Until one day, a rich and overbearing guy appeared. He felt that selling the fruit at such a high price was completely cheating people, so he specially ordered a portion to smash Guichun restaurant signboard. Guess what happened in the end? He definitely felt that it was worth it, right? Bailey Hongzhuang said indifferently. How do you know? Zhou Su's face was astonished. If it wasn't for that, Guichun restaurant would have long collapsed. How could it still be as well known as you said? Gu Jian, I didn't expect you to be so smart. Zhou Su smiled and patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. Just like you said at that time, almost everyone was waiting to see Guichun restaurant make a fool of themselves. Everyone thought that Guichun restaurant came up with a sensationalist idea to please the crowd. If it wasn't for the sky-high price of the fruit, Chen restaurant wouldn't have attracted so many people's attention. However, after that guy ate their signature fruit, his expression suddenly changed. Everyone was already prepared to smash Chen restaurant signboard. Unexpectedly, this guy suddenly shouted that it was simply too magical. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw his reaction. His friends also came up to ask. Later, this guy actually ordered another portion and kept asking the shopkeeper what magical fruit it was. Don't you think it's very interesting? Then what magical fruit is this? I don't know about this. Zhou Su shook his head. I heard that returning Imperial Tower's people did not reveal the origin of this fruit, but I heard that this fruit has the effect of increasing cultivation and does not have any negative effects. With our current cultivation, who knows how many blood spirit stones we would need to consume to advance even a single step. But now, all we need to do is eat some fruits. This is even better than pills. As Zhou Su spoke, his face revealed a covetous expression. Thinking about it, I really envy those rich guys. If there's a chance, I also want to have a taste. Looking at your current situation, I'm afraid you won't be able to think of it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. She now had some understanding of Zhou Su's wallet. This guy was basically a pauper. Don't cut off my hopes so quickly. Zhou Su was speechless. Maybe I can meet a kind-hearted person and invite me to try it? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Deep Beichun and then at herself. You're not referring to the two of us, are you? Wasn't the drunken chicken paid for by Yuan Gang last time? So you're still thinking about the next meal? Actually, it's not completely impossible, right? Right? Zhou Su said, full of anticipation. You're a big man. What's the meaning of looking at me like that? I'll consider it again when you become a woman. Chapter 72:32. Bailey Hongzhuang drove Zhou Su away with a face full of disgust, then sat down beside Di Beichun with a smile. It seems that returning Chen Building is doing very well now. There are rich people in every place. Gong Jun is best at grasping these things. Di Beichun smiled faintly. He had already paid attention to Gong Jun's pricing. This price was much higher than everyone had expected. Obviously, Gong Jun himself did not intend to sell many fruits. Most importantly, when the price was raised to an unacceptable level, and there were people who would buy, this person would not only experience the benefits of the fruit, but also the envious gazes of tens of thousands of people. For many people, the latter was almost more tempting than the former. With Gong Jun here, we really don't have to worry about money. Bailey Hongzhuang drank a mouthful of tea. This guy was born to be a businessman. In the next few days, the entire spirit-devouring mind was peaceful. Brother Yuan, I've been watching Ji Chuan and the others recently, but there's nothing special about these two guys. They stay near the mine all day long and show no signs of leaving. I really can't find any problems. Yang Jiong had a difficult expression. Yuan Gang came every day to ask him if he was nervous. He only felt that the pressure was great. Impossible. Yuan Gang's expression was cold. They definitely have some tricks up their sleeves. You just didn't notice. I'm really watching them very closely. I see that they don't have much contact with the others, except for Zhou Su. How are the other managers now? Yuan Gang asked in a heavy voice. Is there any change in the spirit-devouring stone offerings? Du Bing walked over and said, I found that these guys' attitudes have changed recently. They all said that they were in seclusion and did not offer any offerings. What's going on? Yang Jiong's expression changed slightly. In the past, these guys would offer offerings every month. It had never changed. Yuan Gang sneered. It's because they think that I'm not going to make it. Maybe Ji Chuan will have a chance to turn things around. So they chose to find an excuse to wait and see. These guys are too cunning. Yang Jiong secretly thought. Soon, they will know who is the boss here. Yuan Gang narrowed his eyes. Trying to play tricks in front of me? They will soon know how to write the word regret. Looking at Yuan Gang's sinister appearance, Du Bing and the other two's hearts couldn't help but thump. When the consul arrives, these guys will probably be in trouble. Unknowingly, there were only 3 days left before the consul arrived. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others gathered together and looked at Lei Jun. There are only 3 days left. Haven't you found out yet? The two of them had already decided that if the situation could be resolved by then, they would stay in the mine for the time being. After all, Lu Jin and the others still had to do business with the crossing immortal domain. It would be best if they could find a reliable person to continue this business before they left. If the situation was really bad to the point of no return, they could only choose to leave. I've already asked around, Lei Jun said slowly, but because it's too simple, even I can't believe it. What's the situation? Zhou Su couldn't wait to ask. Yuan Gang actually used gifts to please the consul. This guy stayed in the mine for the longest time, so he has a closer relationship with the consul. Chapter 72:33. In fact, we all belong to the stewards later. When we came here, we already knew that Yuan Gang and the consul had a close relationship, and subconsciously thought that there was some relationship between them. This was also the news that Yuan Gang deliberately released in order to confuse us. Over time, everyone felt that the relationship between them was unusual because there were other reliable connections. I've been inquiring about the news these days. At first, I guessed that the two might be relatives, but the more I learned, the more I was sure that they were just in such a relationship. Because I didn't dare to believe it, I spent more time to confirm it. Looking at Lei Jun's helpless expression, everyone's expression became very complicated. They had always thought that the relationship between the consul and Yuan Gang was unbreakable. Now it seemed that this was nothing at all. So, everyone took it for granted, but subconsciously felt that this relationship was unbreakable, so no one tried to break it? Zhou Su's lips twitched slightly. Is that so? Lei Jun nodded slightly. That's right. Damn, I'm really convinced. Zhou Su was speechless. Thinking about it this way, aren't we too stupid? When I first found out, I also had this feeling. If it weren't for the fact that they and Yuan Gang had become sworn enemies this time, they might not have thought about it at all. When Bailey Hongzhuang heard all this, she also felt quite speechless, but this was good news for them. Since it was bribed with benefits, as long as they could give greater benefits, the consul would be able to leave Yuan Gang. In this way, they would be able to get rid of this big problem. That's true, but it's not easy to please the consul. Lei Jun continued. The reason why Yuan Gang had so much money to please the consul was that he forced the other stewards to pay tribute to him. Through the spirit-devouring stone collected by these stewards, he was able to bribe the consul. Although we have some cultivation resources in our hands now, compared with Yuan Gang, we are still lacking. Don't worry, we have our own plans. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. In terms of wealth, the stewards of the entire mine probably couldn't compare with them, but you leave this matter to us, Di Beichen said. Seeing the two of them so full of confidence, Zhou Su and the other person were somewhat surprised. Although their hearts were full of doubts, having such confidence was indeed a good thing. Then we'll be depending on you. If you need anything, just let us know. Although we don't have many cultivation resources on hand, we still have some. When Zhou Su said this, he had a pained expression on his face. He was really a bit poor. We are on the same boat. If there is anything we can help with, just say it. Lei Jun also said. Strictly speaking, they were already grasshoppers on the same boat since a long time ago. Handing such a difficult matter to the two of them was truly not too suitable. We'll think of something. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Her impression of the two of them improved a lot. At least, they were now on the same side. After the two left, Bailey Hongzhuang finally calmed down and carefully thought of a countermeasure. How to flatter someone skillfully was also a skill. They had to be prepared for it. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Chapter 72:34. On this day, early in the morning, all the deacons in the mine were ready for battle. The consular inspection every 3 months was a test for them. If they failed several times in a row, they would lose their positions. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen also got up early. When they walked out of the tent, they noticed the gazes of many deacons. I find that there are a lot more deacons paying attention to us recently. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. It was not like this a while ago. Recently, she could clearly feel that some deacons showed a sense of closeness to them. Every month, they have to give Yuan Gang offerings, plus that guy's arrogant personality. I think these people have already been unable to bear it. Di Beichun slightly raised the corners of his mouth, and there was wisdom in his eyes, as if he could see through everything. In that case, Yuan Gang really made everyone complain. If we can push Yuan Gang down from his position, these people will be very happy. If we get rid of Yuan Gang, our position will be unshakable. Not long after, a voice came from the front. Zhou Su and Lei Jun also came over and said, "The consular is almost here. Let's hurry up and greet them." Okay, everyone went to the gate to greet them. When all the deacons gathered together, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that the range of this mine was really not ordinary. There were more than 100 mines, and the number of deacons standing here was even more astonishing. However, when they appeared, they could clearly feel that many deacons' gazes fell on them. Among them, Yuan Gang's gaze was the most eye-catching. "Ji Chuan, Gu Jian, you have guts." Yuan Gang's gaze was like a sharp blade, and his tone was cold. "I'll give you a chance. If you kowed out to me and apologize now, I can consider letting you go." Di Beichun indifferently raised his eyes. "Idiot." The cold and mocking words suddenly made Yuan Gang's face extremely ugly. "Do you want to die? Didn't I already prove it last time? If you want to embarrass yourself again, I don't mind accompanying you." Seeing Di Beichun being so stubborn, everyone couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. They only felt that this guy had really changed his temperament. His attitude was completely different from before. Ji Chuan seems to have changed into a different person recently. His attitude is completely different. He offended Yuan Gang so thoroughly. What is he trying to do? The consul is coming today. As long as Yuan Gang files a complaint against him, he will definitely be punished. If you ask me, Ji Chuan shouldn't be such a stupid person. Is the reason why he's like this because he's found a backer? For a time, there were different opinions, but everyone was looking forward to the arrival of the consul, because a good show was about to begin. At the side, Zhou Su and Zhou Yu's hearts were beating like drums. They had no idea whether Ji Chuan and Zhou Yu had really thought of a solution. Most importantly, they hadn't been able to come up with a solution even after thinking for a long time. Subconsciously, they felt that Ji Chuan and the other man didn't have a solution. In any case, after the consul comes, one of us or Yuan Gang will definitely be unlucky. Why don't we talk about it first? Zhou Su thought for a moment and simply threw away this idea. A dead pig doesn't fear boiling water. You might as well throw caution to the wind. You're very arrogant. Yuan Gang sneered. I hope you can keep it up. Don't cry for your parents, otherwise you'll become a joke. You think too much. Chapter 72:35. While they were talking, the consul's figure finally appeared in front of everyone. Seeing this familiar figure, everyone bowed. Greetings, consul. It was the first time that Bailey Hongzhuang saw the consul that everyone was talking about. The man was about 40 years old and had a plump figure. He wore a dark blue robe and looked very rich. Profiteer. These two words appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind almost as soon as she saw it. Gong Jun had instilled a lot of concepts into him. According to Gong Jun's description, he could tell that this guy was a cunning old fox from his appearance. Mercenary. This judgment was not wrong at all. Normally, she didn't like to deal with such people, but for now, it wasn't a bad thing. Consul, you're here. Yuan Gang greeted him with a smile. Yuan Gang. The consul looked at Yuan Gang with satisfaction. How have you been? With the consul's protection, of course it's not bad. Yuan Gang smiled. Everyone looked at Yuan Gang and the consul's familiar appearance and couldn't help but silently mourn for Ji Chuan. These guys were really going to be unlucky. Consul, let's go to the tent and rest for a while. You can go through the accounts later, okay? The consul nodded slightly. All right. Yuan Gang glanced at the crowd and said, the steward has traveled a long way to get here. He should rest for a while. Why don't you all go back first? I will send someone to inform you all to report to the steward later. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also dispersed. This was no stranger to everyone. It was basically the same in the past. Look at Yuan Gang. The consul is on his side. He's giving orders on behalf of the consul. Zhou Su's expression was extremely ugly. I can guarantee that he is definitely speaking ill of us to the consul. When we go later, I'm afraid that we will inevitably be made difficult. This is terrible. After what Yuan Gang did, we didn't even have a chance to talk to the consul. Later, everyone will gather together to report the results. We won't have a chance. The two of them were talking anxiously. When they turned their heads, they found that Di Beichin and the other man were still calm, as if they didn't realize how bad the situation was. They immediately jumped up and down. The fire is already burning your eyebrows. Why aren't you too worried at all? What's the use of worrying now? We will find an opportunity to communicate with the consul, Di Beichin said slowly. I don't think so. Yuan Gang definitely won't let us have this opportunity. Just because he won't give it to us doesn't mean that we won't look for it ourselves. Big brother, you're so calm. Have you already thought of a way? Let's act according to the situation later. Everything was as they expected. Yuan Gang had already reported the recent events of Di Beichin to the consul, adding oil and vinegar. Consul, it doesn't matter if they do this to me, but they know that I'm your man and still do this. They are clearly not giving you face. Yuan Gang said angrily. The consul held the spirit-devouring stone that Yuan Gang handed over to him in one hand. The number was indeed a lot, and it was a little more than before. He was very satisfied. Then he heard such words. Although he also knew that Yuan Gang wanted to use his hand to get rid of some people who were in the way, since Yuan Gang was useful to him, he didn't mind helping. Chapter 72:36. Ji Chuan is so arrogant. Huang Tiangue raised his eyebrows. I don't have any impression of him. This kid is definitely a little unusual recently. Since a while ago, he has been acting very high profile, and his strength has suddenly increased by a lot. I think he might have taken the opportunity to embezzle the spirit-devouring stone. Yuan Gang's face was full of anger. His number 13 mine has always had a high yield. I think he must have done something to it. Otherwise, his strength wouldn't have improved so much. Huang Tiangue, who didn't take it to heart, couldn't help but change his expression after hearing this. You're saying that he kept the spirit-devouring stone for himself? That must be it, Yuan Gang said confidently. A few days ago, in order to investigate this matter, I proposed to exchange mine with him. This guy immediately refused. His attitude is very problematic. This fellow actually dares to stuff his own pockets. He's got guts. Huang Tiangue did not fully believe Yuan Gang's words, but this kind of thing was certainly not groundless. Yuan Gang's judgment should also have some basis. Isn't it? The way I see it, Ji Chuan simply wants to rebel. Yuan Gang added oil and vinegar. Then do you have any evidence of his embezzlement? Hearing this, Yuan Gang's expression turned a little ugly, and his voice sounded a little weak. Not yet. However, I've already sent people to investigate the evidence in this regard. I think there will be results soon. But if the consul can help me, it will be easier for me to solve this problem. Oh? How would you like me to help you? Yuan Gang immediately came over and said, since the ore yield of the number 13 mine is very high, why don't you give it to me? I can figure out the real situation. This way, if that's really the case, I'll be able to offer more to you in the future, won't I? In the end, Huang Tiangue was also a little moved. He knew that Yuan Gang was very popular in the mine because of his relationship with him. He also understood that this guy had taken a lot of advantages. He didn't care about that. What he cared about was that he had been living a very comfortable life during this period of time. No one would complain about having too many devouring spirit stones. With these things, his days would be better. If I suddenly intervene in this matter, will it be difficult to quell everyone's suspicions? Huang Tiangue asked hesitantly. Consul, your words are like an imperial edict to everyone. Who dares to be dissatisfied? Yuan Gang hurriedly said. I already told Ji Chuan about it, but this kid's bones are very hard. I didn't succeed. As long as you speak, he won't dare to refute. This brat is so strong, even you can't beat him? Yuan Gang looked a little embarrassed. That kid has been acting a little strange recently, I understand. Huang Tiangue didn't ask any more questions. He now had a better impression of Ji Chuan. He was well aware of Yuan Gang's status here. Even in this situation, Ji Chuan was still able to make Yuan Gang feel helpless. It was clear that this kid's ability was not ordinary. Consul, does that mean you agree? Huang Tiangue faintly replied with a which immediately made Yuan Gang overjoyed. He had been holding this anger in for more than a month and had not found an outlet to vent it. Now, he finally found an opportunity. Consort, you could take a closer look at the account book when you check it later. Maybe that guy made a mistake in the account book. Chapter 72:37. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two guys who were anxiously pacing back and forth. A trace of helplessness appeared on her face. Can you two stop for a moment? No, I'm upset. Zhou Su stopped, said a sentence, and then continued to pace. I don't know what Yuan Gang will say to the Consort. Do you think we won't even have the chance to refute and we'll be finished? I'm actually pretty good. I really don't want to die like this. Zhou Su wailed. Can I pretend to be sick later? What do you think? Lei Jun asked. Why don't we pretend together? Bailey Hongzhuang. Deep Beichun, please, can the two of you be more mature? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips twitched slightly. She had only glanced at the Consort and didn't know how important the Consort was to everyone. However, looking at Zhou Su's appearance of imminent disaster, it could be assumed that the deterrence was not small. You were obviously very nervous when something like this happened in the past. Why did you suddenly change? Zhou Su was a little puzzled. Now is really not the time to be calm. I can guarantee that you won't be able to keep your number 13 mine in a while. Now is not the time to worry about the mine, Lei Jun said. How to save your life is the most important thing. Even if the Consort has always protected Yuan Gang, this kind of thing shouldn't be so obvious, right? Indeed, he won't make it so obvious, but with Yuan Gang's usual methods, he will definitely let you be in charge of the worst mine. If you can't complete the mission every month, they will have a lot of reasons to kill you. Deep Beichun raised his eyebrows. Many people have died from this method in the past. Of course, haven't you seen one before? I heard there were many more before that. That proves that even if the situation is really as bad as you say, we won't die for the time being. What's more, as long as we find a chance to talk to the Consort today, there is still hope. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Not long after, a group of Consort was notified. Bailey Hongzhuang and others also took their respective account books to go. Wait. Before leaving, Di Beichun stayed in the tent for a moment before leaving with everyone. After arriving, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that from a number 1 mine, the managers handed the account books to the Consort one by one for review. However, the review was not troublesome. To see whether the spirit swallowing stone in each mine reached the standard. Other than that, there would be other people who would do the inventory. Most of the stewards had successfully achieved their goals. Only a small number of stewards had not reached the standard. As a result, they were naturally reprimanded. The Consort gave him a direct warning. If he failed to meet the standards twice in a row, he would no longer be able to keep his position. Number 13 mine. Soon it was their turn. Deep Beichun slowly stepped forward. Yuan Gang stood in front of him and wanted to take the account books. However, Di Beichun just glanced at him, bypassed him, and handed the account books to the Consort. Ji Chuan, what are you doing? Yuan Gang was worried that there was no chance to make trouble. Di Beichun's move directly gave him a chance to be angry. I handed the account books to the Consort for review. What's the problem? Di Beichun asked lightly. Chapter 72:38. I'm just taking it on behalf of the Consort. Do you have to act like this? Yuan Gang said coldly. Manager Yuan's focus is really different from others. I'm just handing over the account book. If you want to be so serious about such a small matter, then I really have no other choice. Di Beichun faintly smiled. Between his brows, there was indifference and fearlessness. You, all right. Huang Tiangui's voice rang out. It's just a small matter. How can you be so calculative? Yuan Gang's voice faltered slightly as he shot a cold glance at Deep Beichun before turning to Huang Tiangui. He was also somewhat puzzled. Huang Tiangui skimmed through the contents of the account book before looking at Di Beichun. Ji Chuan, the ore yield in mine 13 is pretty good. Thank you, Consort. I'm afraid mine 13 is going to rank first in terms of the number of spirit-devouring stones submitted this month. It's all thanks to Consort's good teaching. Everyone's eyes were filled with surprise when they heard this. Zhou Su and Lei Jun were also confused. Previously, they had noticed that the number of devouring spirit stones submitted by Di Beichun was about the same as before. Could it be that he had changed this number? Jichuan wants to curry favor with the consul by handing over more spirit-devouring stones, but I don't think this trick will have much effect. Isn't that right? All the spirit-devouring stones in this account book have to be handed over. Yuan Gang's spirit-devouring stones were directly given to the consul. How can the two be the same? In any case, there will be a good show today. This time, either Yuan Gang or Jichuan will win. If Yuan Gang wins, then no one will dare to offend him in the future. But if he loses, then the sky will change. Yuan Gang looked at Huang Tiangui with some confusion. He had already discussed everything with the consul, but now he suddenly praised Jichuan. He didn't understand. Not bad. He is indeed a good seedling. Huang Tiangui smiled. Since you're so good at managing the mine, why don't I let you manage mine 64? As soon as he said this, Yuan Gang immediately beamed with joy. The number 64 mine was the one with the lowest or yield. Usually, everyone was most reluctant to take over this mine because any steward who worked in this mine would be fired in less than 2 times. Their fate could be imagined. The hearts of Zhou Su and the rest also thumped. This time, it was completely over. They were most worried about this move of Yuan Gonglai's, but they didn't expect that they wouldn't be able to dodge it in the end. At the same time, the others sighed inwardly. Such a situation was truly within their expectations. Yuan Gang looked at Di Beiqian with a smile. This time, he was going to play him to death. Thank you. Consul, Di Beiqian replied indifferently. His calm face did not show any emotion. Seeing that Di Beiqian's expression didn't change, Yuan Gang only felt a little less pleasure, but he could also guess that Di Beiqian's mood at this moment must be very broken. Zhou Su and Lei Jun didn't have any problems when they reported, but they knew in their hearts that once Jichuan was unlucky, it would be their turn next. It wasn't until everyone had reviewed it that the crowd dispersed. Jichuan, pack your things well. Go to the number 64 mine to report today, Yuan Gang said with a smile. He walked forward and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Your death is not far away." Chapter 72:39. I'm afraid it won't be as you wish. Di Beiqian's cold eyes swept over Yuan Gang's body, and he left without saying a word. Yuan Gang looked at the man's back as he left. The disdain in his eyes gradually deepened. It's useless to struggle in the face of death. Only when Yuan Gang was a certain distance away did Zhou Su speak. Mine 64 is completely a waste pit. Even if we give you all the spirit-devouring stones we deduct every month, you won't be able to fill the hole over there. Yuan Gang is really ruthless. He got the consul to deal with you so quickly. There's no reason at all. Didn't the consul say that? If I can manage the number 64 mine well, I will be promoted in the future. Di Beiqian smiled faintly. It can't be. You even believe such nonsense? Lei Jun said in disbelief. At least you found a reason. Di Beiqian sneered. What we do now? Are we just going to wait for death? Don't be so pessimistic. Right now, only Yuan Gang has made a move. We haven't counterattacked yet. The situation might change. Bailey Hongzhuang helplessly shook her head. Zhou Su's temper was a bit too impatient. After a simple tidying up, Di Beiqian went to mine 64 under the sympathetic eyes of the crowd. Although Zhou Su and Lei Jun felt very uncomfortable in their hearts, they also understood that this situation was not something they could control. Lei Jun, do you really think it's possible to make a comeback? Zhou Su sighed and said, I think there will be a chance. Lei Jun looked at the backs of the two people as they left, and there was a trace of confidence in his eyes. After such a thing happened, this should be the most anxious ones. Compared with your reaction, I think their reaction gave me a lot of confidence. Hearing this, Zhou Su was slightly startled. Are you indirectly scolding me? No, I just feel that Jichuan and Gu Jian are actually very confident. Lei Jun said with a faint smile. Just wait. If it really succeeds, we will know the result very soon. I hope so. After arriving at the number 64 mine, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood why everyone avoided it. This mine not only had a low or yield, but the most important thing was that the state of the practitioners mining here was extremely poor. It was impossible to improve the efficiency of mining at all. Because of the poor results, even if there were newcomers, they would not be assigned here. It was a vicious circle and the situation was getting worse and worse. It's really not easy to come back to life in this place. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Even if there was a way, she didn't want to spend too much time here. Tell me, did you write something in the account book? Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head, her face full of smiles without the slightest trace of dejection. Madam is really smart. Deep Bei Chun smiled faintly. We just agreed on time to meet. Do you think he'll come? What do you think? Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Whether he believes in us or not, even if he is curious, he will come. He will definitely come back, Deep Bei Chun said with certainty. Then why does he still do this? Bailey Hongzhuang pointed to the surrounding environment. Doesn't he want to listen to our ideas first? He probably wants to suppress us first and make us anxious. Perhaps he will be able to gain more benefits from this. Chapter 7240. Di Beichun's appointment in the account book was the next day. They all understood that Yuan Gang would rush to entertain Huang Tiangue today. Even if they wanted to find a chance to meet Huang Tiangue today, there would be no chance. Just as the two were about to rest, Zhou Su and Lei Jun rushed over. I received news that Yuan Gang is going to invite the consul to Rutesi House. Lei Jun went straight to the point. Aren't you looking for a chance to meet the consul? Tonight may be an opportunity. Looking at the anxious two, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, We have already made an appointment with the consul to meet tomorrow. Made an appointment? Zhou Su was stunned. When did you make an appointment? When reviewing the account book. Di Beichun said. Zhou Su was dumbfounded. Wasn't I there at the time? Why didn't I know? If you know about it, doesn't that mean that everyone knows about it? Zhou Su, it seemed to make sense. So, you have already made an appointment. Our worries are superfluous? Lei Jun suddenly understood. He felt that it was impossible for the two to be unprepared. That's not necessarily true. Di Beichun's lips slightly hooked. Are you sure that Yuan Gang invited the consul to Rutesi House? Lei Jun nodded. I'm sure. Di Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and Bailey Hongzhuang almost immediately understood. Good idea. Zhou Su looked at Di Beichun with a blank face. Were these two guys too tacit? What happened just now? Why did Gu Jian directly say that it was a good idea? Did we discuss countermeasures just now? Zhou Su asked Lei Jun. Lei Jun shook his head. We didn't, but they may have. You can go back and wait for the news at ease. We'll come back with good news. Bailey Hongzhuang pushed Zhou Su out of the tent. This guy was a little too restless, so their plan couldn't be known by him. Otherwise, it might cause problems. Are we leaving now? Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichun with a smile. Of course. Di Beichun stood up, his eyes shining with thousands of stars. Night fell, and the stars were bright. A breeze blew by, revealing the coolness of the night. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun walked in the direction of the market. Their steps looked quite casual, but in fact their speed was extremely fast. It wasn't until they noticed the familiar figures in front of them that they slowed down their pace. Consul, Rutesi Brothel recently added some new dishes and your favorite wine. I've already sent someone to book a private room. Yuan Gang had a fawning smile on his face. The Dubing duo beside him also surrounded Huang Tiangue in an extremely friendly manner. Huang Tiangue lazily listened to the flattery of Yuan Gang and the others, looking very pleased with himself. This kind of thing, you can arrange it. Isn't this the consul? A surprised voice came from behind. After hearing this slightly familiar voice, Yuan Gang couldn't help but turn his head. When he saw the two people behind him, his face suddenly became gloomy. What are you doing here? We just want to go to Ru Xiang House to have a meal and happen to meet the consul. What a coincidence. Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Huang Tiangue Beichun smiled and didn't speak. He just quietly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Lei Jun. He wanted to know what kind of trick these two people were playing tonight. Ru Xiang House. Chapter 7241. After hearing that their destination was the same, Yuan Gang's expression turned ugly. He was almost certain that these two fellows were deliberately looking for trouble. However, Ji Chuan had already been demoted to the number 64 mine. It was impossible for him to make a comeback. You guys sure are well informed. Could it be that you've heard that we're going to Rutesi Brothel, so you came here on purpose? Yuan Gang said coldly. Steward Yuan, are you joking? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. You must have invited the consul to dinner at the recently famous Guichen restaurant. Why would you go to Retaisi restaurant? The consul has such a noble status, so it's only natural for him to go to Chun Returning Tower. The two of us don't dare to disturb him. Hearing this, Yuan Gang, Du Bing, and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. Although they had already guessed that these two fellows were here to cause trouble, they did not expect them to think of this. In fact, this was what they were most worried about. Chun Returning Tower's recent reputation was too resounding. If possible, they would also like to invite the consul to Chun Returning Tower. However, the exorbitant price of the fruit was simply not something they could afford. Once the consul was there, the fruit had to be ordered. Therefore, after much consideration, they decided to keep their mouths shut and hope that they could get away with it. However, it was exposed by Gu Jian right away. Chun Returning Restaurant? Huang Tiangui raised his eyebrows. A new restaurant? Bailey Hongzhuang stepped forward and said with a smile, That's right. Right now, Returning Imperial Restaurant is the most famous restaurant in our area. Moreover, their signature fruit is very famous. It is said that after consuming it, it can increase one's cultivation without any side effects. As she spoke, Bailey Hongzhuang's face revealed a look of shame. We're embarrassingly poor and can't compare to Steward Yuan. That's why we can only hear about it from others and have never tried it ourselves. Is that so? Huang Tianghe dragged out his tone and looked at Yuan Gang with a smile. Damn you! Yuan Gang glared fiercely at Bailey Hongzhuang. He never thought that this guy would be so despicable. Didn't this mean that he had tasted the signature fruit of Returning Chun Restaurant, but now he didn't intend to go there again? The problem was that he had never gone to Chun Returning Restaurant to taste this fruit. Consul, there is indeed a Returning Chun restaurant in the city, but I have never tried it before. Yuan Gang quickly explained. Did I hear wrongly? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with confusion. I heard that Steward Yuan had already been there when Guichen Tower had just opened. Maybe you heard wrong. Di Beichen winked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who immediately shut her mouth. Yes, that should be the case. Looking at the two of them echoing each other, Yuan Gang only wished that he could strangle them to death. Du Bing and the other two were dumbfounded. In the past, they had never realized that the two of them were so good at acting. Even they couldn't help but believe it, let alone the consul. Consul, we'll take our leave first. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang bid farewell to Huang Tiangui and left. The rest of the problem would be left to Yuan Gang to worry about. It had nothing to do with them. Yuan Gang looked at the backs of the two, leaving, and couldn't help cursing in his heart. However, he could only bite the bullet and choose to head to Returning Chun Restaurant. Chapter 72-42. Du Bing and Yang Jiong also looked embarrassed. Wasn't a little too late for them to say this now? Huang Tiangui didn't say anything. He just looked at Yuan Gang with a slightly cold gaze. The latter felt a chill in his heart. He had already cursed Di Beichen and Du Bing 1,000 times in his heart. However, given the current situation, all they could do now was try their best to make up for it. How many blood spirit stones do you have on you? Yuan Gang's expression was extremely ugly. With the money he had on hand, it wouldn't be a problem for him to have a meal at Returning Chun Restaurant. However, it was obviously not enough to order that sky-high price of fruits. Du Bing and Yang Jiong's faces fell when they heard this. This wasn't good news. However, they had no choice but to hand over all the money they had on them. Yuan Gang did the math, and his expression was still ugly. Even if the three of them combined their wealth, it still wouldn't be enough. I'm afraid Yuan Gang is in trouble now. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Although Huang Tianghe may have seen through our plan to drive a wedge between them, he's bound to be unhappy. In addition, Yuan Gang's purse is going to be in trouble. After understanding the situation in the account books, they already had a certain understanding of the income of each steward. Although Yuan Gang had kept a lot for himself, he should have given a lot to Huang Tiangui each time. In addition, this guy usually liked to enjoy himself. It was unlikely that he was very rich. There'd be a good show later. Di Beichen's lips curved slightly. His handsome face was as enchanting as a demon's. He picked up some food and placed it in Bailey Hongzhuang's bowl. Eat to fill your stomach first. We'll go to returning Chun restaurant later. Returning Chun restaurant. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly startled. Are we going tonight? They had specially come to Ratesi restaurant because of what they had said earlier. If they went to returning Chun restaurant later, it would be tantamount to letting Huang Tiangui know that they were deliberately looking for trouble. Deep Baicha nodded. Today's good show has already played out to this point. Wouldn't it be a pity if we don't add something? What did you do behind my back? I was just greeting Gong Jun. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. What did you tell Gong Jun? I'd already guessed that this would happen, so I mentioned it to Gong Jun a few days ago. I think he will act according to the situation. Smart. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled brightly. Gong Jun had stayed in the mine before, so he was no stranger to Yuan Gang. Moreover, they should be very familiar with this kind of thing. So, your plan is to make them unable to pay? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. This way, not only will Yuan Gang be embarrassed, Huang Tiangui will also be very angry. As a consul, he was considered a respectable figure. If he lost face at this time, one could imagine the anger in his heart. Indeed, Deep Baicha nodded. As long as we go in at the right time and resolve this awkwardness, Huang Tiangui's impression of us will be much better. Unknowingly, they would have the upper hand. So, there'll be a good show to watch later. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Returning Chun restaurant. Yuan Gang looked at the dishes that Huang Tiangui ordered, and his heart kept bleeding. Huang Tiangui was obviously a little annoyed, so when he ordered, he did not consider Yuan Gang's situation. He only felt that, after working together for so long, Yuan Gang had slacked off a lot. Chapter 72-43. Perhaps Ji Chuan's appearance was an opportunity. For a long time, he had let Yuan Gang dominate the mine, and everyone was used to it. Over time, Yuan Gang also seemed to be fearless. Now, he even dared to fool him on such matters. If this continued, this fellow might not even be afraid of him in the future. Yang Jiong, you go back and get the money first. We will stall for time here. You must be fast, Yuan Gang said in a deep voice. If he couldn't even pay up here today, then he would really become a joke in the future. Most importantly, it was fine if he lost face, but if the consul lost face as well, he would really be done for. Brother Yuan, the price of this fruit is really too high. Who am I going to borrow money from when I go back? I'll borrow it from those I'm more familiar with. I'll return it to them after a while. Yang Jiong looked hesitant. He already knew that the price of this fruit was sky high, but when he saw it today, he was really scared silly. This price, who could afford it? Speaking of which, they were unlucky. The price of this fruit was already very high, and today they happened to encounter some fruit of the highest quality, so the price was even higher. Now that the consul had already ordered, they could only bite the bullet and sit there. I'll go right away. Go as fast as you can. Don't waste any time. After finding a reason, Yang Jiong left the returning Chin restaurant. In his heart, he had already categorized this restaurant as a shady restaurant. It was simply terrifying. When Gong Jun saw Yuan Gang scratching his head, he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. You dare to offend my boss? See if I don't play you to death today. After ordering, Huang Tiangui was a little curious. What kind of fruit was worthy of such a price? If this fruit was not extraordinary, Imperial Returning Tower would have been finished long ago. Yuan Gang, what's wrong with you? Huang Tiangui said slowly when he noticed Yuan Gang's awkward expression. Yuan Gang immediately smiled. It's nothing. I just feel that it's rare for you to come here. I hope you won't be disappointed. I'll try the fruits in this shop. If it's really a rare treasure, I'll go back and tell the other consuls. I don't think it will disappoint you. I've heard from others that it is indeed not bad. Soon, the fruits were served. Looking at the fruits on the plate, Huang Tiangui and the others were stunned. That was because the fruit was sparkling and translucent. At a glance, one could tell that it was different from ordinary fruits. Just smelling the rich fragrance made people want to take a bite. At this moment, even if they didn't eat it, they already knew in their hearts that this was definitely something good. Did you see that? That table ordered special fruits. It said that the price of the fruit today is very high. I didn't expect that someone would order it. I'm afraid this table of people is not simple. Although the price is very high, everyone who's tried it said that the taste is very good. I don't think you will be disappointed. Noticing the envious gazes around him, Huang Tiangui's mood improved a lot. Consort, do you want to try it? Yuan Gang stared at the fruit. This was definitely a heavenly treasure. Even smelling it was a pleasure. Huang Tiangui picked up the fruit. In fact, he was a little reluctant to part with it. If possible, he really wanted to bring the fruit back first. However, in the current situation, he could only eat it directly. Chapter 72:44. A rich aroma spread in his mouth, and pure origin energy spread to his limbs and bones. At that moment, he felt as if his entire body was light and could float. Huang Tiangui didn't say anything, just savoring this indescribable feeling. Soon, the entire fruit was eaten by him. He closed his eyes and exhaled a breath of turbid air. He felt refreshed. He was almost certain that after eating this fruit, some of the small problems that had gathered in his body had been cleared up. Such pure elemental energy was actually obtained from a fruit. It was simply unbelievable. Yuan Gang and Du Bing unconsciously licked their lips, their eyes filled with curiosity. Consort, how does it taste? It's indeed a well-deserved reputation, Huang Tiangui praised. Hearing this, Yuan Gang was also relieved. Everyone who had tasted this fruit said that it was worth it, but the price was too high. Fortunately, the Consort was very satisfied. Presumably, most of his previous unhappiness had dissipated. The other dishes began to be served, but Huang Tiangui's mind was completely focused on the fruit. He couldn't help but feel a little absent-minded. He sized up this returning imperial restaurant. Although he didn't know what kind of person this boss was, to be able to get this kind of fruit, he definitely wasn't a simple person. Gong Jun had been using the corner of his eye to observe the movements here. After seeing Huang Tiangui's dispirited appearance, a faint smile appeared in his eyes. It's about time. Dear customer, Gong Jun walked over with a smile. What do you think of our store's signature fruit? After noticing Gong Jun, Huang Tiangui also straightened his expression and said, You really live up to your reputation. You've broadened my horizons. To be honest, today's special grade fruit is also the first time our store is selling it. This fruit can increase the amount of elemental energy compared to other fruits. When you go back and circulate your cultivation method, you will discover even more benefits. I see. Since you're the first customer to order a special grade fruit, we can provide a special dish today. Are you interested in learning about it? Go ahead, Huang Tiangui said with interest. His mind was still filled with the original fruit. If he had enough money on hand, he could buy a few more. It would be safer than eating pills. Our store has researched a few new dishes that will fuse the essence of the fruit into the dishes. This way, the dishes will also be able to increase one's elemental energy. The taste is excellent, and the price is slightly cheaper than the fruit. What do you think, dear customer? Huang Tiangui's eyes lit up. He was already looking forward to it. Now that he had such an opportunity, he was even happier. All right, let's do that. Yuan Gang's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He felt that it was all over. Just the fruits alone were already too much for him to bear. Now there were these dishes as well. He was afraid that he wouldn't even be able to walk out of this store today. Looking at Huang Tiangui's expectant look, he could only suppress all his depression. He wondered if he could find an opportunity to talk to the shopkeeper about the credit later. Gong Jun, you're really something. Xiren looked at Gong Jun in admiration. He felt that Yuan Gang was really unlucky. Chapter 72:46. They had never tried such a unique taste before. After the initial amazement, the three of them began to gorge themselves uncontrollably. Because it was so delicious, they didn't have time to talk at all. They even felt that if they ate slower, the food would be finished by others. The cultivators at the other tables were actually very curious about whether the food was delicious or not, but after seeing the three of them pouncing on the food like wolves, they knew that the food would not disappoint them. They were even more curious and couldn't wait for tomorrow to come quickly. In the blink of an eye, the food on the table had been swept clean by the three of them. Yuan Gang looked at the unusually clean dishes and remembered that Yang Jiong hadn't come back yet. They didn't have enough money to pay the bill. Du Bing's heart also skipped a beat. He ate too happily just now and completely forgot about this. What should we do now? Du Bing couldn't help but look at Yuan Gang. If they left earlier, they would have to face the dilemma of not having enough money to pay the bill. Yuan Gang was also very conflicted, but after noticing Huang Tiangui's unsatisfied expression, he had already made a decision in his heart. Consort, do you want to eat more? Yang Jiong hasn't come back yet. Yuan Gang smiled. Huang Tiangui was already unsatisfied. Now that he heard Yuan Gang take the initiative to mention this, he immediately went with the flow and said, okay. After seeing this scene, Du Bing on the side couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat for Yuan Gang. Their current situation was bad enough. Even if Yang Jiong borrowed money back, they might not be able to afford this meal. If they ordered other dishes now, the scene later, he simply didn't dare to imagine. This kid actually dares to order. Ziren frowned slightly. Could it be that Beichen's information is wrong, and this kid is actually very rich? Impossible. Gong Jun was a little hesitant. According to his understanding of the store during this period of time, although the manager of the mine usually lived quite well, it was actually not enough for such expenses. On this point, he had also gotten a very certain answer from the boss. This situation was indeed a bit strange. However, when he noticed Yuan Gang looking out from time to time, he already understood in his heart. I'm afraid this kid is in a terrible fix right now and is looking for someone to save him. Gong Jun sneered. I'm not afraid of him ordering. I'm just afraid that he won't order. After a while, when that guy comes back, you can go and inform the boss. Zyra nodded. No problem. Du Bing watched in trepidation as Huang Tiangui ordered a few more dishes. He felt like his heart was bleeding, but even he had to admit that these dishes were really delicious. He didn't feel full at all. When the dishes were served again, Yuan Gang and Du Bing learned from their experience. They didn't dare to eat too much. They just slowly delayed the time. Huang Tiangui continued to eat by himself. He felt that he would have to come here more often in the future to eat such delicacies. Du Bing's face was full of desire. He was worried and satisfied at the same time. If he hadn't accompanied the consul here today, he didn't know when he would have the opportunity to taste this place. After a long wait, Yang Jiong finally returned. After seeing Yang Jiong return, Yuan Gang and Du Bing both breathed a sigh of relief. At least there was hope. How was it? Yuan Gang asked. Yang Jiong nodded slightly, indicating that there was no problem. Yuan Gang and Du Bing were relieved. End of chapter. Chapter 72-47. Brother Yuan, I've already collected enough money for the special fruit. Yang Jiong smiled. The price of a single fruit was too shocking. He had kept it in mind ever since he saw the price. When he returned, he immediately found everyone and borrowed their blood spirit stones. Their biggest problem was the special fruit. As long as they collected the money, the other dishes would not be a problem. However, when he finished speaking, he suddenly noticed that Yuan Gang and Du Bing's gazes were somewhat unusual. He immediately asked, "What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Did you only borrow money for the fruit?" Yuan Gang's face darkened. Yang Jiong nodded subconsciously. Yes. Du Bing swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The dishes they ordered were not ordinary dishes. The total price of these dishes must be very frightening. What happened? Yang Jiong unconsciously felt guilty. Everything was fine before he left. There was no problem. Brother Yuan, what should we do now? Du Bing looked at Yuan Gang worriedly. She had lost all her appetite. If they cannot pay here, they would really be done for. Yuan Gang secretly glanced at Huang Te, who was in a good mood, and then quietly looked at the shopkeeper. After the interaction just now, he felt that the shopkeeper was not a difficult person to get along with. As long as he talked nicely, there might be a possibility of him buying on credit. Thinking of this, Yuan Gang said that he had to go to the toilet and took the opportunity to leave. He then found Gong Jun. As soon as he saw Yuan Gang, Gong Jun already knew what was going on. At the same time, when Zyron's figure disappeared from the returning Chin restaurant. "Shopkeeper, I wonder if I can discuss something with you?" Yuan Gang braced himself and asked. He had no other choice now. "What is it?" Gong Jun said with a smile. "Aside from buying on credit, everything else is negotiable." He reached out and pointed at the signboard. Yuan Gang looked and found that the words "no credit" were written on it. In an instant, his face became even uglier. The shopkeeper's words seemed to have directly blocked what he wanted to say. "Guest, what do you want to discuss?" Gong Jun pretended not to know, with a concerned look on his face. Actually, I just want to talk to the shopkeeper about the credit," Yuan Gang said hesitantly. His voice was extremely soft, and his head was also very low. It was clear that this matter also made him feel extremely embarrassed. Thinking about how he was able to cover the sky with one hand in the mine, now he actually had to pay on credit in a restaurant. If word got out, he wouldn't be able to survive in the future. As soon as these words came out, Gong Jun's face showed a strong look of surprise. Before he had time to speak, the attendant on the side couldn't help but say in astonishment, "What? You want to buy on credit?" Perhaps because he was too surprised, the waiter unconsciously raised his voice and was immediately heard by many people. Originally, Yuan Gang's table was very eye-catching because not only did they order expensive fruits, but they also tried the new dishes first. Everyone was very envious. However, when everyone heard that these guys were prepared to pay on credit, they were dumbfounded. "Are you kidding? This group of people looks dignified, but they came here and directly ordered the most expensive fruits. In the end, they actually want to pay on credit. Isn't this a joke? This is really the first time I've met such people. If they don't have the money, then don't order. At this point, they actually want to pay on credit. Aren't they too shameless?" End of chapter. Chapter 72:48. That's right. What's the point of pretending if you don't have money? Don't you know that Returning Star Restaurant never allows credit? All the envy turned into disdain at this moment. Everyone looked at Huang Tianguo and company as if they were watching a joke. It was clear that after today, these people were going to become famous. Yang Jiong and Du Bing didn't expect such a situation to happen. They were dumbfounded. Didn't Brother Yuan say that he wanted to discuss it with the shopkeeper? Even if the discussion didn't work out, there was no need to be so high profile. They could have bought more time, or Brother Yuan could have left first, and they could have stayed until closing time. At least the impact would have been smaller. However, now that it was brought up in front of everyone, they couldn't wait to find a hole in the ground to hide in. Huang Tianguo didn't expect Yuan Gang to do things like this. He knew that this meal was expensive, but with Yuan Gang's position in the mine, as long as he used his brain, he would be able to solve all this. He didn't expect this guy to be so stupid that he couldn't even handle this kind of thing, especially when the surrounding gazes made him feel as if there was a thorn in his back. His old face blushed. "Yuan Gang." Huang Tianguo's voice rang out. "What are you doing?" Yuan Gang's face was already pale. He glared fiercely at the waiter, and Gong Jun skillfully apologized. "Sir, I'm really sorry. I didn't teach him well." Yuan Gang didn't say anything. The anger in his heart was already rising, but the current situation wasn't the time for him to vent his anger. "Consort trash," Huang Tianguo angrily rebuked. Gong Jun hurriedly ran out with an apologetic expression. "I'm really sorry. Our restaurant never allows credit. This has been written down long ago. Just now." The waiter was too surprised to control himself. "I apologize to everyone. This kind of thing will never happen again. How about I give you a discount on this meal?" Gong Jun was extremely polite. Everyone understood that Gong Jun didn't deliberately let everyone know about this matter. It was just because the waiter was careless. As a shopkeeper, he handled it very well. For a moment, everyone was standing on the side of the Returning Star Tower. The Returning Star Tower had already done its utmost benevolence. This kind of freeloader should be spurned by others. "Manager, I don't want to dine and dash." Yuan Gang's expression was complicated. He wished that someone could knock him out with a stick so that he wouldn't have to face such an awkward situation. However, his attitude made everyone look down on him even more. If you don't want to dine and dash, then you want to pay on credit? It's not easy for them to open a shop. If all the customers they meet are like this, then how can Chun Returning Restaurant continue to operate? This kind of person is really shameless. He can even say such words in such a dignified manner. It's really admirable. His words stab at Yuan Gang's spine. His hands unconsciously clenched into fists, but he was helpless in front of the console. Huang Ting coldly glanced at Yuan Gang. Manager, this meal is on me. A voice as warm as the sea came from the door. Then everyone saw two figures slowly walk in, and these words came from the man in the lead. Huang Tiangue and the others looked back in surprise. After seeing that it was Ji Chuan and Gu Jian, the lines on Huang Tiangue's face softened. Yuan Gang's hair stood on end. His face instantly turned darker than the bottom of a pot.